Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Knights of Last Call. My name is Derek Melenda, welcoming you to another exciting live stream. And we're here from the studio with Bob, with Smith, saying hello, hi to everybody out there today. And of course, today we are going to be doing a live stream.
That's right.
Where we're going to be covering 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Why 4th edition?
Oh, that's a great question, Bob. The answer is because 4th edition D&D was, we think, a pretty great edition of the game. It's very tactical. In fact, a lot of the things that a lot of people like about Pathfinder 2nd edition, a lot of people don't maybe not know this, but Logan Boner was one of the lead designers on Pathfinder 2nd edition.
And also, if you're a fan of Kinesis, Rage of Elements, Logan's work. Guess where you got a lot of those ideas from?
Oh, Kinesis is
Exactly.
so good.
Yeah,
Kinesis is so good.
It's so good.
So
It reminds me of something I love deeply.
So 4th edition was a game that Aaron and I played when it came out. In fact, very famously, we were at Gen Con 2007 when they announced that 4th edition was coming, and no one knew that this was coming. This is not like the days of today with Paizo and with Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, there's always so many leaks.
Well, not just leaks, but they're like, here's playtest version number 75. Here's we want to make sure that you guys have.
So this is completely under wraps.
No one knew anything.
Wow.
And so we go to
that's not possible.
Well,
These days.
Exactly.
It was a different time. Instead
Yeah.
of crowdsourcing their design, they just hired professional game designers to make a game.
right. It was
Makes sense.
right.
Right.
I would still say there was a committee. Mark. Sorry, I did say Boner. Mark Bonner. Sorry.
What's wrong with Boner?
Yeah, what's wrong with Boner? What if it is Boner? Huh?
Might be Boner.
It's Mark Bonner, or it's Logan Bonner.
I get a boner when I read his work. So.
All right, well, you heard it here, Logan. Demonetized.
Demonetized.
We're in the first 5 minutes. We gotta keep it clean here. Anyways, so we were there. We were, of course, huge 3rd edition D&D fans, and everyone knew that there were some problems with the game. And so suddenly we go to this big seminar in the middle of Gen Con, and this classic, the very famous Z Game Remains the Same skit plays, where they basically shit on all the prior editions of D&D. They talk about how bad 1st edition was, how bad 2nd edition was, how bad 3rd edition was, and they're like, coming soon, new, awesome. And we're like, what is going on? And then no one really was understood what happened, because
we thought it was like e-tools.
yeah, we thought it was gonna be like a VTT.
But they were ripping on old editions.
Yeah, they were just telling
This is very confusing.
yeah. And so then, boom, all of a sudden they come out, and this whole design team comes out. Andy Collins, Bill Slavicsek, Logan Bonner, who else? Not Rob Schwab. Maybe Rob Schwab? Whatever. They come out, and sure enough,
Andy Collins.
no, Rob Heinz, though. I knew there was a Rob there.
James Wyatt.
James Wyatt, who also works for Paizo.
Oh, wow.
Actually, I want to say Logan didn't come on until after PHB 3.
Okay.
He was a later edition.
Got it. Okay. Well, anyways, they said, hey, there's this 4th edition D&D coming out. So when it came out, we played it. And we played a very long-lasting campaign. Now, 4th edition had a very short edition life.
Very short.
It was only out. It came out in 2008. And I think 5th edition basically came out 2014. So it was only out for 6 years.
And really, the last year or so, 4.8, I don't think they were coming off a whole lot.
Oh, we got a tip from Dr. Metropolis. It begins, my Twin Strike Ranger is ready. Accurate. Thank you, Dr. Metropolis. So yeah, London says, what dead system are we learning about today?
4E.
4E.
And this is dead.
And it is dead.
It is
And
dead. It got murdered.
It got murdered.
Shot in the street.
Right. Most of the time when a system is dead, it's because it bled out slowly. This was deliberately taken out back.
Twice. Pop.
2 in the head to make sure it's dead. And we could talk about that a little bit, but when it came out, we were really excited to play it, and we got a group together and we made characters, and we played an entire 30 levels. That's right. 4th edition goes to 30. And it took us about 2.5 years. But anyone, this shouldn't sound surprising, but anybody out there, the idea, we've all played D&D, the idea of going 30 levels, not 20.
Yeah, hard enough.
Right, hard enough to go 20. And that you played one, and everybody played their characters that they started the game with. Yeah. And went the entire route is
it's mind-boggling. We can barely play till 7 levels right now.
Right.
We just hit 8th, and it feels like it's taking forever.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a pretty big accomplishment, and we really liked the game. Then, of course, during this time, I should note that 4E was very polarizing. There are a lot of people who felt like it was a bridge too far.
People were very upset at the disruption of revenue.
Yeah, for example, Paizo made 3rd edition games, and when they released fourth edition, they basically said, there's no more OGL.
Right.
So Paizo had to go create Pathfinder because they wanted to keep their business afloat. And so it kind of created this whole splintering of the industry. And
Paizo specifically, actually, so Paizo used to manage the Dungeon and Dragon magazines.
Yep.
Those are two separate magazines. And then as part of 4th edition, WotC was like, we're taking that in-house again. Fuck off. Also, by the way, OGL's dead. Fuck off. And so, Paizo kind of was like, yeah, maybe fuck you guys a little bit when they went and erased.
Now we are definitely
Dungeons.
demonetized.
Oh, yeah.
Was it the first 5 minutes?
No, now we're not, but
No, we're not. We're fine.
7:06.
Okay.
6 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I was
We're
gonna say,
good.
I'm pretty good at that.
Okay. We're good. All right.
Yeah.
It depends on if we started the stream exactly.
Yeah.
At
So
They erased the name on Dungeons and Dragons and they wrote Pathfinder and they were like, hey, look, we made a system. And that's where PF1 came from.
That's right.
Right. So, so 4th edition, we played it. And then, of course, at the time, I was starting to get into a lot of other indie games because there was this, these new games were emerging, powered by the apocalypse and all this other stuff that I was seeing and playing at Gen Con.
So before that, you were really just D&D.
I would say we were more like trad fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? Like
But no Powered by the Apocalypse.
Well, it didn't exist.
Got it.
You know?
See, this is all fascinating
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I haven't even played this system that we're talking about now. Nothing before 5th edition. I didn't play anything.
You're actually living now in a time that's kind of similar to what happened at the end of 3rd edition, where 3rd edition came out and OGL was amazing, and you had this huge third-party market, which had a lot of trash, but also had some gems that came out of it, right, and all that stuff, right? And then Hasbro got greedy, as they do, and tried to shut all that shit down, and people rebelled and started making their own things, and you got PBTA and a bunch of other games out of it, right? That time period was
so it fortunately caused like a boom in
Right.
right, and I think you're
Yeah.
going to see this happen now because history has repeated.
Right. And this is what I'm hoping.
Right.
I mean, selfishly, this is what I'm hoping happens because of the OGL and that, people maybe have said, okay, hey, look, there are other games out there and we should check them out. And of course, there's more games out there now than ever. Just to clarify, I see that a couple people, especially Ayla, says, what do you mean by when you say it's dead? So what I mean by when I say it's dead is unlike when the OGL got released, there was this idea that it was backwards compatible. And people figured this out because at the time, 3rd edition was out and 4th edition was coming and people weren't very happy about it. And somebody was like, man, I just want to play 1st edition AD&D. But it's been out of print for 25 years. And someone realized that the text of the OGL allowed a weird sort of backwards, like it grandfathered in 1st edition. And so they realized they could basically reprint 1st edition as a book. In fact, this is like what kicked off the OSR, which was called OSRIC, which stood for Old School Reference Index Compendium or something.
Yeah, that was the book, and the movement was OSR, Old School
Renaissance.
Renaissance.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know if OSR came from or OSRIC, but any case.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So the point was people could go and make these 1st edition, 0th edition. So you got the White Hack, the Black Hack, you got Labyrinth Lord, you've got OSRIC.
Hell, they hacked 2nd edition.
Right. They even did Adventures Dark and Deep.
Is that it?
What, AD&D?
Gold or something.
Yeah, I thought it was, Golden Glory or something.
I don't remember.
Anyways, so the point was there was a ton of this. But 4th edition D&D, and by the way, this is why today you can go on to Drive Through RPG and you can go buy 3rd edition books, 2nd edition books, 1st edition books. But 4th edition, and also those things are supported on Foundry and Roll20. But 4th edition was released under the GSL. 4th edition was not released under the OGL. And the GSL, the game system license, was very strict. And as a result, 4th edition got very little, almost none, very little third-party support.
I'm trying to think of a third party at this one for 4th edition.
I can honestly say I don't own anything, I don't think, if it did come out. So everything that came out for 4th edition
really
was
handcuffed themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so more importantly, once they stopped making the game, Wizards basically said, we're not going to approve anything for the GSL.
Yeah.
So that means that there is no official Foundry model, and you can't pull from the OGL, which means if you want to play 4th edition D&D on Foundry legally, you have to basically manually go in and type in all the powers and type in all the feats and type in all the stuff. There's no compendium drag and drop officially. And so as a result of that, it's tough. It's tough to get into. It's tough to play. So that is definitely the case. Now, there's a couple.
I always think of it just even then, like you guys were somebody. It's hard to figure out what was even printed because there's so much errata and like there's no book like that's like here's the thing.
So here's the thing about it that is interesting. Okay, which is this. These games, just today, while I was on a Roll for Combat stream.
You were today?
No, I was just typing in.
Oh, okay.
Super chatting in, and I basically said. Like how often do you guys, they were talking about monster creation. I said, how much do you guys play test these monsters realistically? And they said, the median is probably 0, right? So like basically saying.
So it looks good on paper.
They never play test them most of the time. They're like, we know how it works. And, I'd love to tell you that, every class and and to be fair, I think at the beginning of the game, usually the beginning of the game, the first book that comes out is probably pretty airtight because the game hasn't released yet. So you have a lot of time to, figure stuff out and play test it. But then once the ball gets rolling, right, and the splat books start coming, the fact of the matter is a lot of these things don't get the kind of, play testing they desire.
Yeah, I mean, they were releasing a PHB and DMG. The plan was to release one every year, and they more or less held to that. So you're looking at like, at best, a year development cycle, except it's way less than that.
Well, but also primal power, arcane power, martial power.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the big ones.
Right.
Now they had more people than than what works on like 5th edition when it came out, but like still like the time to like design a book, play test a book, get the book to the publisher, right? Get it printed, get it out to everyone, right? Especially if you're trying to get it to Gen Con, right? It goes by really, really quick.
So as a result, when you play an RPG today, you get something in a book and you go, man, this thing is stupid. It's broken, or it is underpowered. So Wizard 4th edition D&D took advantage of the fact that a lot of people were using basically the D&D Insider, which is what it's called D&D. It's called D&D Insider. Now it's called D&D Beyond.
Yes.
A lot of people were using that to make their characters. And they said, so you know what we'll do? Monthly, we'll take a look and we'll see what people on the forums are talking about. And if a feat or power needs a little bit of a tweak, like a video game, when you log on, it says, hey, the new patch came out and this card was probably, OP or, this deck had too high of a win percentage. Yeah. Skull Clamp needs to get banned, right? So many other games do this. Magic does this and they have
very well,
and they have physical cards, and so Frostjack with a $10 tip says, have to support the 4E streams. Well, thank you, Frostjack. Appreciate it. Frostjack, had you played 4th edition before you joined the Knights, or was that something that you learned from us, or is that something that you came into on your own? I can't remember. So, anyways, as a result, 4th edition took the option to say, yeah, we're gonna try to fix the game, and if there's a problem or a busted power, or maybe something that's not quite compelling enough, we're gonna tweak it. But as a result, your dead tree versions of your book, aka your printed book, became quote unquote obsolete.
Right.
Now, can you play with it? Of course you can.
Yeah.
But
very few things were so busted that made the game unplayable. Honestly, I don't think anything made the game unplayable. There were just a couple things that like made certain parts of it annoying. Like probably the biggest would be like some of the original monster hit points. They had like a lot of hit points and didn't do enough damage, so it just made it feel like a slog in some cases, particularly like a solo or whatever. But then in Monster Manual 3, they kind of inverted it, right? So monsters had a lot less hit points, so it did way more damage. So it's more like kind of like how Pathfinder 2 is, where it's like monsters come in and they melt characters really quick, but like you can melt that monster in 2 rounds.
No, but I was thinking about like it's interesting how you have to run it then, because it's like, what book are you going to run?
They
stuff
both
from?
are fine.
Yeah,
and
you have to know that
there's little cheat sheets where like if you really want to convert it, you can redo it, right? But if you also just played it out of the book, it's not like it's going to ruin your game. It's not broken.
Yeah.
It's just they found a way to tweak it that had a little bit more fun impact, and that was better than what they initially came with, right? So
yeah. So someone in chat asked, why was 4E so unliked? And there's what the community will tell you. But I will say this: in my opinion, there's 3 main reasons why 4th edition was unpopular.
Actually, it sold really well.
Unpopular meaning it was not 5th edition, right?
Sure,
right.
Stirred, but yes.
And they did see that their player base, it did not grow in the way that the growth slowed down after 3rd edition.
Yeah.
So the reason why 4th edition? Well, number one, 4th edition was, and I mean, it's so funny how people complain about things and then they fix them and then they complain about the thing that they originally tried to fix. 4th edition is designed very with an eye towards playability and readability.
The readability part seemed like perfect. When I was looking at the like just the monster stuff that Smith will show me, I'm like, wow, this is like visually easy, visually grabbing, like it's what you want at the table.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't like it because they said it felt sterile.
Yeah,
which is why look at 5th edition. What do you and I complain about when we read 5th edition books?
That I don't even know what I'm looking at.
What the fuck am I reading?
Yeah.
Right. So
but they got pretty pictures.
That's why.
But so
why can't you do both though?
Because people complained.
Right. So
5th edition's the apology for it.
4th edition, was very clear delineation of text. If you go to 5th edition, you'll see a lot of instances where you get these massive blocks of text and it will be all it'll be indented around like art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
4th edition had a new color-based system that you could use to visually reference what type of power something was. It used symbols.
It's specific iconography.
I don't understand how that's a thing that people didn't like. Like I don't know how making things faster at the table and visually grabbing and easy is bad.
Yeah. Now to be fair, I mean their point is taken. The game, the book does not have that sort of like musty old tome of forgotten lore.
I guess that is fair.
And so for
you read a 5th edition book, it's pretty, it's fun, it's colorful, it's inspiring.
It's got that texture on the back that makes it look like it's old parchment.
I don't know what creature level this is.
So
no idea.
So again, so that's why I'm saying I'm like addressing why people didn't like it, and I'm also saying like I get some of why they didn't like it.
Now, this was when 4E came out, they were complaining.
I mean, fairly quickly. Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
so you're talking then 1 through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 3.5. That was more the tome and the pretty picture.
Yeah, more or less.
And stuff like that. Because even back then it was black and white text in some of these editions. So I don't really understand.
It certainly wasn't like 5th.
Yeah,
5th took it up
art.
a notch on the art, right?
And I actually like the scroll background on the text block of the creature. And I like the lore, but like it's not in a good order.
No.
Sometimes it's on like flipping through multiple pages. I don't really have all the information I need. So I wish we could just do both.
I agree.
So the second thing is that they created a space where fighters and wizards were on the same playing field. And for some people, there was actually kind of two ways of camp. One, people felt like wizards were, not this broken, powerful class that could, just destroy everybody at will. And there were also people who felt like why can the fighter, let's call it what it is. Why can the fighter do some anime shit, right? Like he's just a fighter with a guy with a sword. He should just be singing his sword. Like, right? Like I don't want this like over the top, flipping through the air, type of character. So 4th edition D&D, in my personal opinion, it leaned hard into sort of that heroic fantasy. And I actually believe this. I do think that it got away. I think it got away a little bit from the sort of, maybe the grim, dark, grungy character slogging through the mud, Yeah,
when you read these books, it fully intended on doing that. It wanted characters to be heroes and to be in a world where like there was like this action heroic fantasy.
Right.
They even go in here, right? And people will lose their shit over this, right? But like, they tell you flat out, hey, guess what? Your characters are probably not going to die. Like they may die in heroic, and if it's low enough level, make a new character and get back in the game. If you die at higher heroic or in Paragon, you're coming back from the dead. And then at epic, they define death as a speed bump. So like things that like when we look at like the PF2 math, for example, we're like, clearly this game doesn't want you to die, right? And that's the point of it. But like they're not being like up front of it. This game is telling you flat out, like, no. You guys are action heroes. Like you're not gonna die. You might have defeats in other ways, but your characters are going to progress through this game because you're badasses.
Yeah.
It was definitely a departure from the murder hobo in a sewer trying to get enough gold to buy some bread.
Exactly. We had a tip from Fruitless Endeavor who says the 4E streams were my first bits of KLSE content I ever saw, and I love them. Well, welcome back, Fruitless Endeavor.
Welcome back.
So yeah,
This
so
stream is for you.
I know we're doing some background here, but what we're actually going to do.
I feel like RFC is like texting you right now because he wants to be on stream.
There's nothing I can do, Steven. I'm so sorry.
You should
Also, we were on this, on RFC when Derek was on it, and Steven was complaining about 4th edition. Steven was wrong about everything anyway. So, also, he didn't even play a whole campaign. 1 to 20? What is that?
Right, that's not a full campaign.
Like, get out of here, Steven. Go get a cute plushie or something.
But
we have those over here.
yeah, we do have. We got Chilater over there. Chilat. So yeah, so I think this, for some people, the tone felt different. Now, I liked, for the game, I liked the over-the-top action hero element of it. But for people who wanted, fighters to basically,
Well, it's okay to like multiple things,
right? Yeah.
And that's the thing. My
Could
older
you do?
age,
But if you're playing 4E, you're locked into.
I kind of.
Would I do a Grimdark crawl in 4E? No.
Got it.
No. Right. It's kind of like doing one in Pathfinder 2. What are we doing?
I mean, think of it this way. It's like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, right? How they have rations, but it's a week and it's light bulk. It's like
why is this even here?
Why is this even here? Clearly we're not.
Carry
My
over.
barbarian, my hasted barbarian that is enlarged is running into the middle of a thing and then whirlwind attacking and hitting everybody. Right? That's Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You're not worried about how much light do we have.
Yeah.
Right? Will we run out of water? Will my character die of dehydration?
It wasn't trying to be that kind
It
of
wasn't trying to be that.
It wanted you to go to fantastical places. And when we talk about like world design and stuff like that, they really focus on these, just like, not just the characters are above and beyond, like the places you go, even at heroic, are above and beyond. Think like floating islands and like amazing kingdoms of just like magic and power.
At like what level?
Starting in the beginning of the game.
Oh, okay. So
and it just gets
really
more crazy as you level up.
Got it.
Right? But even heroic, which is taking place like in the prime material plane, you're introduced to the other realities as you play.
So was like video games, like certain video games, real big at this time? Is that why they kind of leaned into it? Like,
Well,
was there like Final Fantasy or something?
This is the third pillar that people complained about, which is
what year? 2008.
2008. Right. So a lot of people said, quote, basically that 4th edition D&D looked, and you know what? The designers have said this. They have said this. So this is an honest to God take. They said, World of Warcraft came out in 2004, 2005. It was huge. And a lot of people thought that D&D, tabletop D&D, wasn't going to survive because everybody was going to go play World of Warcraft.
To be fair,
now they're like, let's just become the same thing.
Right. And so, Dungeons and Dragons clearly was like, hey, how do we make our game like this? And I think you can see this into a certain extension where you can see that like today, people playing 5th edition, 5th edition has all these rules about torches and rhyme around the muck, but nobody plays that way. They all play, they're sort of, very high fantasy, high narrative, high story time. So I think what ended up happening is 4th edition D&D said, look, D&D is kind of stuck in the past. You know what I mean? It's, this was their mindset, right? Yeah. Like it's 50 feet of rope and, like people like trying to figure out how to, slog their way through a dungeon. People want to be doing these over the top, exciting things. And we want to give, and even when you go play World of Warcraft, right? Your fighter has all these cool powers and abilities, just like the wizard does. Mm-hmm. The wizard's got his hot bar full of cool powers and abilities. You have your, you're the warrior, you're the rogue, but you have a cool hot bar of abilities.
And more importantly, they took the concept of roles from games like World of Warcraft.
Absolutely.
It brought definition to teams.
But it sounds like it really nailed it. From everything I've heard you guys say, like the roles stuff, like really is nailed.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you that the game wasn't influenced by World of Warcraft. And, Steven is even saying, like, he knew all those people, at the time. And, it absolutely was. So, yeah, obviously that is an influence. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it all depends on what and how you view
that's right.
D&D.
Depends on what you want it to be.
Right.
And that's what I was saying. Like, if you were like, I like low fantasy, dungeon crawling, it's like, then 4th edition comes out, you're like, this isn't what I want.
It is not what you
So
want.
that's interesting.
Right.
I like that. And but now we have so many games. It's like, well, if I want that, I'll just go find the game I want to play.
Right. But at the time,
that's the time that's where I live.
But at the time, D&D, this was it.
Yeah.
This was
Right.
the option.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people for the first time found themselves in a situation where they go, I don't want that.
So is that why Pathfinder probably became popular enough?
It is.
Yeah,
Big
that's
time.
probably why.
Because, people, I mean, we said this before, people do not want to play dead games.
Right. And third edition was
Third edition was dead. You could still play it. All your books were still legal, but there's something about playing a game, that that is no longer officially supported. It feels a little strange, You want to be able to get excited about new releases, and you realize there will never be another new release for that. So,
Now, what's funny is Pathfinder 2 ended up in the same boat as 4th edition because of Pathfinder, right? So 4th edition, they took a look back, and in addition to everything Derek here has mentioned, they also were like, hey, there's some real problems with 3rd edition. Like, this game breaks down. So we're going to fix it because we're listening to people complaining. What are they complaining about? And tell me if this sounds familiar. Oh, man, we don't know how to run higher level adventures because everyone has such different builds. Sometimes it's a wipe. Sometimes one guy solos everything.
I wish the
Sometimes
math was tighter.
I wish the math was tighter. I wish wizards couldn't just one-shot everything.
More
right?
balance.
More balance. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So 4th edition was like, okay, we're going to take a look and fix 3rd. And then 10 years later, you got PF2 going, okay, we're going to take a look and fix 3rd edition.
Yep.
yeah.
So
I agree. I agree with White Computer. People complain about the issues with 3E, but they didn't like the solution. And by and large, you were correct. Now, again, 4th edition didn't do horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it clearly was not the home run success that they wanted. And it clearly did not, become this huge explosive success that they thought it was going to be. Ironically, 5th edition did, but not for the reasons that they thought, right? We could go into a whole stream about that, about why 5th edition.
To be clear, 4th edition did do really well. It just didn't do good enough for the board, for
Right.
Hasbro. Like, there's various commentary on the internet that you can find, but basically, there's this assumption that, Pathfinder was selling more than 4E, which, from according to people who worked on 4E, was not true based on the numbers. 4E was smoking them. Pathfinder was actually worried about, but 4E didn't do enough for their own board, given what they invested, what they felt the return should be, which is where the pressure was coming from.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I think, too, the 4th edition design team was huge. I think there was a ton of people working
Oh, yeah, a lot of people
at Wizards of the Coast on this. By the time
There was a lot of bloat.
no, because there was a ton of content.
Oh.
They were coming out with like a hardback book like once a month.
Jeez.
Not to mention Dragon and Dungeon, which were considered canon and fully available in your game.
So it was like a huge, huge deal. So that was kind of that's kind of the intro.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about this? Well, the reason we're talking about this is because, Aaron and I played 4th edition. We played several campaigns. I ran some campaigns. Smith ran some campaigns. We've been, kicking around the idea of, of maybe playing a 4th edition campaign again. Bob has never played it.
I've never played.
It's a fun, option to bring back
You
the
and
play.
this mic.
I hate this fucking thing.
I don't know why you have so many issues.
why do you-
It's like I move a lot because I fidget.
Well, just don't put
I'm
that
never
piece back
Just don't
on.
put that piece back in.
Well, I like it because it looks better that way.
It does look better that
Then
way.
it bangs and makes a loud noise.
I think you know what it is. None of us. I haven't touched my mic once,
Yeah.
and neither has
No,
Bob.
I'm constantly moving and adjusting it because I'm always moving around.
So what we're
My
gonna do?
bones hurt.
So what we're gonna do today?
I've heard so much good things about 4E.
Yeah.
I've wanted to play. Smith's been begging to play for.
I don't know about begging.
You've been begging. You literally said my wife's dying wish is that.
Oh, that's true. I did do that.
was joking. Roll for Combat says, and we hear every bump that you make on that mic.
Hey, you know what, Steve? I don't want to listen to you talk about audio or video. Okay. All right. Why don't you get a Kickstarter so you can buy a camera?
Frosty says, get Smith a spinner. So
I wanted to play. Smith wanted to play. We were looking for a new system.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about the computing power that I'm going to be able to handle this game, but I'm really
Fair to be nervous about that.
I agree, but I'm really excited for the monsters.
Right.
Like, I really want to see the way rolls work, because I actually think that even if I don't end up liking 4E, that it will help me learn a lot about encounter design and stuff like that, and
Totally agree with
some
that.
cool things. So that's what I'm excited to try.
Great things you can take from this with any edition you go play. I will say you need to definitely approach this game in terms of tiers. So not only as your character levels up in 4E, does your character face higher challenges, but you as a player face higher challenges, right? A heroic character is very manageable. It's gonna be no sweat for you.
That's
right?
1 through 10.
That's 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, as you start to get into epic, like there's a lot in front of you. Now, if you're playing a full campaign, it's kind of like boiling a frog. You're just gradually going to go into it, right? But if we sat down, I think Derek brought one. If we sat down, busted out like 30th level character in front of you right now, and all the abilities and options it had, you'd be like, "What?"
I mean, the comparison, Bob, would be like me dropping a high tier Northern Reaches character, and you've never played it before.
Yeah,
you would be,
what am I even looking?
You'd be shit out of luck.
Right.
And so again, I we kicked around this idea, but Bob does not know how to play 4th edition. So what I thought we'd do today is we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the player's handbook, and we're going to talk a little bit about creating a 4th edition character. And we're going to kind of walk through the process with Bob. And as we do so, we're going to be kind of explaining some of the base concepts where 4th edition is basically similar or the same as all of your standard D20 games, but also where it is different and where, there's certain different options and things to consider as you go through.
I mean,
that.
just looking at the sheet, there are a lot of similar things I see right away that are, this is D&D still.
Right.
Why don't we go over the sheet? Whenever I look at a new edition of a game, I kind of judge it by its character sheet, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so let's take a look here. So for starters, you've got your Dungeons & Dragons character sheet. You've got, obviously, normal stuff, your name, your level, right? Basic stuff here. But you have a class, right?
Yeah.
And the class is just like any other version of the game. Now,
makes sense.
At the time, this was a sort of a big deal. But if you're used to Pathfinder 2nd edition, this is actually something that we're more familiar with now. Because when you're playing 3rd edition or 5th edition, you're sort of used to... Hey, we got a tip from Dr. Metropolis. Bob needs a Marshall Strike Girl. Extreme accurate, simple to use, hit like a truck.
Oh, we think we know what Bob wants.
So when you're playing 3rd edition, what's that?
Self-confessed cynic had a super chat.
Oh, Vin had a super. No, I just by default ignore everything Vin says. He says 4ELP on the channel. Let's go. I don't know. After seeing how bad Root did, I don't know that we can afford it, but maybe we could do it. White Computer Power says, "Are you going to use the 4E character builder? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Not on the stream." White Computer Power.
We talked about it. Though.
We talked about it. So unlike in 3rd edition or 5th edition, the 4th edition characters, you have a class.
Okay.
In 3rd edition and 5th edition, of course, when you level, you can take a level in a different class. Right.
So
that's multi-classing.
Okay, yeah.
That's not how multi-classing works in 4th edition. In fact, if you know how archetypes work from Pathfinder 2nd edition, that's basically exactly how they work.
So when you could take a feat,
when you could take a feat, you can take a multi-class feat, and it basically starts to unlock different powers from that class. And as you take more feats in that class, that multi-class, you can pick up different powers from multiple different classes. So again, it's very much like Pathfinder 2nd edition in that way.
Okay.
So next, we can see that your character has a Paragon path and an Epic Destiny.
Yeah, no idea what that means.
We don't have to worry about those.
Okay.
Because what ends up happening, the game, as Aaron alluded to, is divided into 3 tiers. Heroic, 1 to 10. Paragon, 11 to 20. And Epic, 21 through 30. Your character might start off as a fighter or a rogue or a ranger or a warlock. And you will be a ranger or a warlock or a rogue all the way through 30th level.
And you get powers all the way to 30th level.
So you'll continue to get stuff all throughout your class. However, at 11th level, your character is no longer heroic. Your character is a paragon. And you basically get to pick a new class. It's called a Paragon path.
Right.
It's a
These
special...
are not like the base classes.
These are specialized classes.
Oh, I thought you were just like, okay, now I'm rogue.
No.
Oh.
Like if you were a fighter, like Derek was saying, now you might become a Knight of the Realm.
Oh,
right.
So
It's
more
something with
specific.
prestige.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Now, you're still a fighter, and you'll still gain fighter stuff. In fact, there's fighter stuff all the way to 30th level. But as you go through your teens, you're going to pick up new... So now you're not just... You were a fighter. I was a fighter, right? Maybe we took different... feats and powers and abilities, but we were fighters. But at 11th level, you might be a gladiator, a fighter gladiator. I'm a fighter weapon master. Different abilities, different powers. So a Paragon path is sort of in 3rd edition terms, it was sort of like a prestige class.
Do you get kind of locked in?
Divine locked in.
So in Pathfinder 2, like when you're a champion or something like that, and you take the certain path, almost like I'm going to take weapon or it was what's the riding the horse or whatever the animal.
Oh yeah, the
you
divine.
just kind of get locked into that road.
Yeah.
Almost like a, what do you call it, like a ladder?
Yeah, yeah. No,
a tree arc. Or
so I will say this: 4th edition tries to use carrots instead of sticks. We'll get to this when we get into the powers. But a way to look at it is let's say that you're a sorcerer and there's different options that you can choose from. Your character might be a sorcerer who specializes in dragon magic. There might be powers and abilities that work for everybody, but if you are a dragon mage, they do a little more.
Okay.
So you could take those if you weren't a dragon mage. There's absolutely no reason you couldn't take it.
They're not bad, but
they're not bad, but they're not as optimal, of a line. So,
compared to, you can't take those powers.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
okay.
you can take them. You just may not be
optimal.
the best, in terms of sheer numerical things. We have another super chat.
Ryan Winter.
Ryan Winter, thanks for dedicating a stream to D&D 4E. Happy to do it, Ryan.
4E fans coming out today. We're happy to have you guys here.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they're like a loud minority, right? It's like, 4E stream. Everyone's a 4E fan jumps on
this
it.
is the 4E safe space.
Yes. And I see people talking about hybrid classes. I'm just ignoring them for purposes of this stream. But yes, at the very end of the game, they introduced the idea of basically you could be 2 classes at once, sort of. But yeah, so
kind
again,
of function like dual classing from like AD&D.
So just as with before with the Paragon path, at 21st level, you pick your epic destiny.
Did they have sweet names too?
Oh yeah.
Really
sweet names.
So like,
my God.
Like for example, in our third edition or 4th edition campaign, we had 5 characters. Aaron's epic destiny was Mythic Sovereign.
Okay.
Right. Ross's mythic destiny was called, epic destiny was called the Radiant One.
Okay.
Where he would become a being of pure energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually very important.
Tim's was called Punisher of the Gods.
That one. I think you told me about that one.
Was
that the assassin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that.
Rich's was called the Eternal Seeker, who basically when they died.
Is this one trying to get the sword back or whatever?
Yes, but like the idea is like you're like that you're like that wanderer. Their character's thing is like if they die, they like they die when you look, you can't find the body, and then the next morning they just walk in the door.
Oh.
Right? Like they just show up. Like they return without very mysteriously, and then Matt was a demigod. So
sweet.
The Epic Destinies, and by the way, Epic Destinies is where you get powers like once a day when you die, turn into an arcane spirit, have full hit points and vulnerability to damage, and get to use all of your powers as at wills. And then after the fight's done, your arcane spirit collapses back into your body, and you're at full hit points.
Okay.
Yeah. Every Epic Destiny had a cheat death power. And the other important thing about Epic Destiny is literally the name Epic Destiny. When you got your Epic Destiny, you also got a quest. This game has quests in here which are defined.
Oh, like internal motivations and stuff like that.
Well, specifically, you had to accomplish a epic quest by 30th level to achieve your full destiny. So, like, in the case of Matt Holloway, he was a demigod. To fully ascend into godhood, he needed to complete his epic destiny. And at the end of the game, he's a god.
It reminds me of it reminds me of the joke about how there's no role playing in 4E, but literally that alone kind of makes your character have a purpose.
Again,
the Paragon path works the same way because the Paragon path is supposed to tie you into the world.
We've said this a million times. Role playing and mechanics have very little to do with one another, I think personally. But
Legend of the Five Rings has the same thing where you kind of have this ultimate goal or big goal that you're trying to get to. It's nice.
Character motivations tend to lead to better campaigns, and 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons does give you kind of some inbuilt motivations because of the way that your character works.
Yep.
All right. So back to our character sheet. So again, Paragon Path, Epic Destiny, these will come online later in the game. But again, this means that by the time your character's finishing up the game, you have a class, you have a Paragon Path, and you have an Epic Destiny. And so there's different ways to sort of enjoy the game as you go along through it. You also have race, which is pretty much just like you would normally expect from a D20 game. I will say, race affects your ability scores, right? Elves get bonuses to dexterity, right? Dwarves get bonuses to constitution.
They also give you some initial powers. But
they also give you, in some cases, pretty substantial powers. Like, for example, there is a race called the Eladrin. And the Eladrin are basically magic elves. Think like the elves from Lothlorien from Lord of the Rings. Galadriel, real
You know, after the Mine and More, after they fight the big fire guy.
Yeah.
And they're in the forest.
Yes.
And there's the kind of hot elf.
Yeah.
Those ones.
So I know those ones.
Right. So like Legolas would be an elf.
Yes.
The hot elf would
With the water that she was looking
you
at.
got it.
Yeah.
She would be an Eladrin.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay.
At first level, an Eladrin can, once a fight, once an encounter, once every 5 minutes, teleport
Wow.
across the
Is that a
battlefield.
thing that they can do? Like in Lord of the Rings?
No,
I was like,
but my
They've
point,
already took it up a notch.
Yeah, where'd they pull that from?
but my point is that like from first level, your character, because they are an Eladrin, can basically teleport across the battlefield. So
Dragonborn can breathe fire.
Dragonborn can breathe fire right from the
and
beginning of the game.
I'll say
Understand, were dwarfs good?
dwarves
Yes,
are amazing.
Dwarves were
That's
amazing.
what we're talking
So
about.
everyone has this power called Second Wind. It takes normally a standard action and lets you spend a healing surge to heal. So you don't need someone else to heal you. Dwarves can do that as a minor action.
That's we rolling up.
Right. So
Going
dwarves
up
are pretty,
that dwarf.
dwarves are pretty great. So race is very similar to most D20 games. However, it does have a little bit more oomph, in my personal opinion.
Yes.
Size, age, gender, height, weight, alignment. We're not going to touch on this too much, but I will say that in 4th edition, alignment is pretty simplified. There's basically, it assumes that you are unaligned, not neutral, just unaligned.
Right.
Okay.
You're not a champion of good. You're not a paragon of evil.
Just an adventure.
You're just an adventurer.
Yeah. The world books go into it, but they wanted good to mean something. They wanted evil to mean something. So if you declare your character like good, like you are standing for something above and beyond versus like 3rd edition where it's like, yeah, I'm not an asshole, so I'm good.
Right. Exactly. So
Okay.
it's kind of a minor change, but one that I really liked. Deity, another area where sometimes people could get a little wonky. They really cut down the list of gods that were in the default game just to make it a little bit more clear cut. Like instead of there being a list of like 75 different deities, there's like a list of like maybe 18.
Which is more manageable.
I think it's more manageable.
For a
but-
game that is maybe less manageable.
yeah, for a game that's maybe less manageable. So
This other one, though, Adventuring Companion, is that just your
Adventuring Company or other affiliations
is that just your group?
Yeah, it's like your group.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
we're the band of the bloody hand. You know, or whatever. Okay.
Knights of Last Call.
So as
Again, just kind of emphasizing that this is a team game. Like character creation, we're just walking you through it. But when you make characters in this game, you make them as a team. You don't show up with your character ready to go.
Well, and if I remember correctly, you were a support character, so it's very important, I think, to know what people were doing, so you would
100%.
know how to support them.
Whenever we
I mean-
level up, I'd have to kind of like go around the table, be like, "What'd you pick? What are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
doing?"
yeah.
Right? Because how I supported the matter. You know, if we were heavily martial, right, then I would need certain powers to buff the
Yeah,
marshals.
this isn't just I aid you.
right.
Okay.
You know, so you really got to know what everyone else is doing. You got to know what they're doing for setups, things like that. It really matters.
So now we'll take a look at initiative, and you can see here one of the first things that at the time was kind of like a revolutionary thing, but now we're used to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, not as revolutionary. Initiative is, it's a turn-based initiative system. Hey, we got a tip from GM Scott coming in
What
hot.
does
What is
he want?
What did he say here?
Just got in. I'll need to catch the beginning of the VOD. Where did you get the fillable character sheet? It's called Google.
He's not wrong. I literally typed in
fillable?
form fillable PDF character sheet.
That's what I
and-
typed in too.
And then I literally got that. But thanks, GF Scott. I found it. Mine was like I found a Reddit page that had a link to it. So, but it was pretty easy there, GM Scott, to find it.
So
So,
probably link that in the 4E channel.
but how do I get rid of this toolbar? Oh well, stupid thing. So initiative.
the one on the left.
Initiative, yeah, the stupid thing here. Initiative, you can see, has dex and half level. So we're used again, at the time, this was a big deal, but now we're used to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you add your level to everything, right?
Yep.
In 4th Edition D&D, you had half your level.
Okay.
So-
it's
so it
Dex
changes-
plus half level plus miscellaneous item boost or something like that.
You
I
got
got
it.
it.
Feat bonus.
Like a feat bonus.
And all
or
that
magical-
goes into your score.
Yep, exactly. So
very easy.
a level 20 character in 4th Edition D&D will have a base of plus 10.
Correct.
Not plus 20.
Yep.
So that is, and again, at the time, it was like, oh, this is craziness. But
Numbers go per.
yeah, the numbers went up. But
Not high enough.
now,
for
now,
then.
now
Yes,
again,
if anyone wants to multiply everything here by 10.
So again, and we'll kind of scoot down here really quick, but then, you've got your ability scores: strength, con, dex, int, whiz, charisma. It's everything that you're normally used to. An 18 gives you a +4, a 16 gives you a +3, a 17 is still a +3, right? Pretty normal. Everything that you would expect. And again, same thing. You have a modifier plus half your level. So if I ask you to make a strength check, you get to add your half your level. This might be something that people subtly forgot is Pathfinder 2nd Edition does not have strength checks. Right. It does not have dexterity checks. Everything in Pathfinder 2nd Edition is a skill check.
Right. Well,
because it's athletics.
It's an action. There is actually no naked skill checks.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But there is no action that says strength.
Right. Right.
There's athletics.
But there's chooses strength. But that's all it does.
You can't just make a stealth check. You have to take the hide action, and the hide action says roll with stealth.
Correct.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, correct. So I'm thinking like
you can't even make an athletics check.
Yeah.
Right.
There might be something that says
I climb.
When you climb,
right.
I escape. It'll say make an athletics check, but you can't just do that.
I also like visually on here, just the strength and con with the little black bar that goes right to the word fort.
Okay, well we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Okay,
because it just makes sense.
So in 4th edition, that's a good.
Pulls you right over.
No, that's a great segue, Bob. In 4th edition, you have 4 sets of defenses: armor class, all which we of course know and love. Then you have fortitude, reflex, and will. And again, if you're playing 5th edition, this might be a little new to you, but most people I think even who play 5th edition are somewhat aware of how 3rd edition and Pathfinder work, where you have a fortitude save, which represents sort of your character's ability.
What's it in 5e? I thought it was that too.
Strength, dex, con, int, whiz, charisma.
Your saves are your abilities.
All your ability scores are saves. Yeah, you don't make a reflex save, you make a dex save. You don't make
too much Pathfinder.
You don't make a fort save, you make a con save.
I haven't played 5e in a while.
So what's interesting about this is if it's a little bit of a knock on 5th edition. I liked the 6 save method system. I liked it in 5th edition.
I agree.
And then they only ever used con, dex, and
there's like 4
wisdom.
Intelligence saves in the game. It's so sad.
Basically,
the concept was great, but they failed to execute.
But they didn't really execute on it. So what's interesting here is fortitude is your character's resistance to bodily harm, physical ability. Reflex is your character's ability to dodge and get out of the way of things. Will, your ability to sort of stay mentally strong.
Yep.
In this game, you take the higher of the 2 ability scores that feed into that as the ability. So, for example, if your character has a really high strength and a very low constitution, you would use your strength modifier for your fort save.
And then I guess as you would level up, if you ended up going higher in the other one, you'd have to kind of
you could flip over, right? So what that means is that reflex isn't just dexterity. Reflex is dexterity or intelligence.
So you could really min-max.
Well, the idea here is that
that's instantly what I'm seeing.
Kind of like Pathfinder, your attributes are important, and you're going to have your best attribute and your most important stat. And each class has the primary stat, usually secondary in some cases, unfortunately, a tertiary stat, right? But like Pathfinder, if you're like a sorcerer and you're max, charisma, and maybe you're the dragon-blooded sorcerer, right? So strength's important to you or whatever. You might be running out of stats by the time you start looking at dexterity and constitution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The idea here is that, hey, listen, okay, you're a pretty clumsy wizard, but you're still a wizard, so you get to roll reflex with your intelligence. Right?
Yeah.
Because you should have a decent stat in one of these pairings, which means your defenses are crippled.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal situation. Now, I also should point out, if you look at the defense, the first column in AC, in fort, in reflex, in will, you'll see it says 10 plus half your level.
Yes.
Now, again, we're familiar with this. This is because we're used to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where we do this all the time, where we'll turn a save into a defense.
Yeah, what's your fort DC?
What's your fort DC? In 4th edition D&D, you do not roll a fort save. You do not roll a reflex save. You do not roll a will save.
In fact, these aren't called saves.
They are called defenses. Just like your armor class, fortitude is a defense. It's a number. It's a DC that the enemy has to hit.
Okay. So if Derek attacks you with a fireball, he has to hit your reflex defense.
Okay.
You do not roll
interesting.
your save. I attack you with a fireball. I roll a d20. I add my attack bonus.
Interesting, because I know you don't really like the GM rolling a ton of dice.
To be fair, the GM's still rolling a bunch of dice because I'm attacking you.
Yeah.
But what it does is it means that when you're a wizard, and I think this is something we talk about all the time, the tactile, not tactical, not tactical, the tactile,
Yeah.
the touch, the feel of something. When you're a wizard in Dungeons and Dragons, you've played a sorcerer.
Yes.
When you cast a fireball, all you say is, I cast fireball, and you roll your damage. And I know it's stupid. It's just random numbers. But watching the GM roll their dice to determine how well your fireball did, I think feels very disempowering, right? Because
because he's rolling the save.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you feel like
I attacked you.
You feel like you're just like passive. Like you're just standing back and
I always
watching.
thought of it as like how well they dodged it.
Right. Which is fine.
Yeah.
What this does is it makes the character whose turn it is, the active player, the one who's throwing the fireball. Could be the monsters. My dragon is breathing fire onto you all, but I'm the active character. I'm the one with the spotlight on me because it's my turn. I'm the one that's going to be rolling dice, not other people.
Okay.
So when my dragon breathes fire, I, the person with the spotlight on me, again, I say spotlight is important, in an initiative, especially in a turn-based initiative system. But dice rolls demand spotlights themselves. So it's my turn. I'm the cool dragon. And now we're watching you, and we're watching her, and we're watching her, and we're watching him. Right? So I think what ends up happening here is when the dice rolls follow the active player. And by the way, Pathfinder 2 does this. There are no opposed rolls in Pathfinder 2. Spells are like the one exception where you still kind of roll a save.
Yeah.
Like if I try to grapple somebody, right? I'm the active person. I'm grappling. It's my athletics check versus their for DC.
Right. Yep.
And then when they try to escape, right? It's their whatever versus my athletics DC.
Correct.
So it's doing it interchangeably back and forth. 4th edition, it's just always static. It's just your fort defense, your reflex defense. Now, of course, it's fourth, it's D&D, it's a game, so defenses, D, armor class, A. So fortitude, reflex, and will were called your non-armor defenses, or your NADs. And so a common tactic is to hit him in the nads, because your defenses in fort, reflex, and will typically be lower than your armor class,
which makes sense.
Right.
So a common tactic was to try to hit him in the nads. So next we'll go to speed, and you'll see next to it says squares.
This pissed off people.
4th edition does not use 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet. Theoretically, it does.
Could you not play with hexes? I'm kidding.
Actually, 4th edition would work totally fine with hexes.
Yes. I know, that's what I'm saying.
In fact, actually, 4th edition using hexes, if I had my druthers, it would, because it would fix the one issue that I have with 4th edition.
Because 4th edition is kind of pretending to be on hexes. That's the funny part.
Oh, because you can just cut across on diagonal.
You got it.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
They got
Bob.
rid of the rule where you half or you double up every other.
Yeah. In 4th edition, a square is a square is a square. There's no this. There's not. It's not one diagonal, two diagonal, one diagonal.
I've definitely ran like this before to get to a bad guy.
Right. So yes, you're technically moving faster when you move on a diagonal. But if you're on a hex, that would not be the case.
Right.
That's right.
So,
I like hex maps.
So I actually think that
maybe we'll bring it back for this.
Maybe I think hexes could be interesting. Below that, you have your passives, insight, and perception. Of course.
So I just want to go back to speed.
Yeah.
So you got your base speed, which your character would give you.
Right. So for example, a dwarf might have a base speed of 4 squares.
And then your armor affecting your speed.
You got it.
Right there, which is kind of nice. And then item bonus, miscellaneous is something else, and then special. Okay.
Yeah. So special
I'm
movement
not used
might
to seeing the armor like right there on the
right.
speed.
So special movement, you might have flight 10. And that means if you're fly 10, which means if you're flying, you can move 10 squares.
Okay.
So, and by the way, that squares terminology is used for everything.
Right. Radiuses, targeting, range.
So the range of your abilities will say range 10. Doesn't mean 10 feet. It means 10 squares.
And in a way that's almost simpler, like if you were to teaching a kid, be like 5 feet, 10 feet. They keep adding. No, so it's 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, 5 square.
Right. It's just,
smaller
you
math.
divide.
Now, to be fair, a square is defined. It's supposed to be 5 feet, but like it could be a meter. It could be 2 meters. It could be whatever you want it to be. Really.
Oh, yeah, it's more universal.
Yeah, but that is
That's
the case.
interesting.
So
that's what Jim Scott, I think, was saying too. As an American, I'm used to using all kinds of units, so it doesn't bother me.
that's true. So then you have your senses, and again, we're used to sort of these passive insight, and passive perception.
Wait. In 1E, they used inches? What?
Yes.
What? That sounds
Well, because they didn't have a grid.
Yeah, that sounds.
It's like Warhammer.
Well, it's like Warhammer.
So, and why is it like Warhammer, Bob?
Don't you use Warhammer? Or don't you use
do.
inches?
I do.
Yeah. So there you go. It's the same thing.
Those some
Remember, because
six.
D&D was closer to its wargaming roots, back then. So now scrolling down, we have senses, which is passive insight and passive perception. This is basically, again, at the time, this was kind of revolutionary tech, but now we're kind of used to it, right? Where it's like, what's your perception DC? Okay, I need to, beat that if I want to sneak by you or do something like that, right?
So insight is
It's like social perception.
okay.
Social.
Am I lying to you?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always hear. I'll make an insight check. It was like a big thing. In,
Yeah.
5e.
But like in 5e has insight, but in Pathfinder 2nd edition, they combined sense, motive, and perception into one skill called perception. But it's the same thing. All right, so now we're down on the left, Bob. We're on hit points. And here's where we're going to get to
we
the
just
first.
skipped over attack workspace. That sounded the coolest part.
That's not.
He's going a slight left to right.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm sort of teasing.
So hit points is another area where there's a lot of changes in this game. So obviously you have your max hit points. For starters, let's talk about how you determine your max hit points. Again, Pathfinder 2 took a cue from this. At the beginning of the game, your hit points are substantial. So if you imagine back in the old days, your character might have D10 hit points plus your con modifier. Could have 8, 9 hit points. In a game like Pathfinder 2nd edition, you start off with 10 plus your con modifier plus your ancestry bonus. So it gives you a nice little chunk. In 4th edition D&D, your character starts with a certain number of hit points from their class. Fighters have more than wizards, right? Then you add your constitution score.
Oh,
not
the
the modifier.
Right.
Ooh.
But then you never add the modifier again.
Never the score or the modifier.
Either. Your hit points at that point will go up by a fixed amount each level.
What determines that?
Just your class.
Okay, so it's classes.
So what it does is it gives
Like
you
Pathfinder.
your constitution up front, and then it proceeds from that perspective. But your constitution does matter for a different
So
reason.
you want to if you want the HP, you want that con at the beginning and then never touch it again.
Well, no, because if your con goes up, you get one more hit point. But it's not like this multiplicative. Because in like Pathfinder 2nd edition, if your
Wait, you
con
said it doesn't affect it.
in Pathfinder 2nd edition,
No, I know
if your
that.
con went from a +3 to a +4, right, which meant it went from a 16
Correct.
to an 18, and you're 20th level, you would gain 20 hit points.
No, you said in 4E though you don't use the con ever again.
You don't use the con for
that.
hit points.
Oh, so what did you use it for?
Derek's gonna explain.
I'm going to explain.
Oh, okay. I was like, did I miss this part?
That's why we're doing the stream.
Okay.
That's why we're doing this stream. So you might be used to a character, it's like, okay, I have 100 hit points.
Yeah.
Right? And my bloodied, it just tells you right there, is half your hit points, right?
Yep.
Yeah, bloody is like a condition. So
Okay.
when you have it, certain things can key off that. Certain of your powers might become available
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. Bloodied can be good
or bad.
or bad. There are some monsters.
Ooh, I think the Barbarian got some good stuff as it got hurt more.
Yeah.
You showed me the Barbarian once.
So
you
like,
finally read that?
so
no,
like,
no, oh my god, I still haven't read that.
Ah, come on, Bob.
Oh, I've just been so swamped.
It's all
I'm
right.
sorry.
we got a super chat from Damian Williams. It says, a lot of games I like stole from this game. It's almost like it was a good game that was hated for new things bad. Yeah, that's pretty much true.
Accurate.
And again, Ayla right after that said, like Pathfinder has already been uttered several times, though I understand PF2 shares a lot of 4E DNA. And honestly, there's a lot of elements. There's actually a lot of elements from 5th edition. The advantage mechanic came from 4th edition.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that worked well in this edition that they secretly try to sneak into future editions.
Oh, this corpse got heavily looted.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do from it. Is
Right.
play it and see if there's elements there that can improve my game and stuff like
But
that.
one of the problem, and again, I'm speaking here to the audience, but I'm speaking to Bob. One of the problems, and you're pretty deep into the tank now, Bob, with game design. One of the problems with hit points is that hit points don't matter until you're dead. Right? Our character here has 100 hit points.
That's right. You're still as deadly as you were at 100 as you were at 1.
And nothing and from a monster standpoint, the monster is just as effective at 1 hit point as it is. So there's no sense of, hey, we're doing damage to this thing and something changes.
Yeah.
What Bloodied lets you do, some monsters might, for example, gnolls, bloodthirsty, ravenous, hyena-like creatures. They deal bonus damage if their target is bloodied. It's like they smell like blood in the water.
Oh, okay.
They
So-
go into a frenzy.
So not only does it affect the way you
Yes.
act, it's if they are that way too. So
Okay.
so not only if so you're saying is not only if I'm bloodied, something might happen, but I'm attacking a monster, I might have an ability that says if they're bloodied,
Correct.
Right.
something might happen.
Right.
Too.
It works both ways. Like I'll give you a classic example in 4E. If you're fighting a dragon,
Oh, Dragon's great.
if you bloody it, meaning on your turn or there's somebody's turn, they do enough damage to it to make the creature bloodied. The dragon basically roars in defiance, immediately recharges its breath weapon, and uses it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's sweet.
especially if you just used it.
Right.
Oh, right. Like
I timed that
No.
perfectly.
There's even like that could even be like a meta where you're like, oh, like we're not attacking him this round or something because he just used his breath weapon.
That's
We'd be
right.
giving him, and there have been times where like a dragon
That's
will
interesting.
a dragon will breathe, do a ton of damage because the breath weapon's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And then like a PC goes, does damage to the dragon, which bloodies it, immediately recharges, immediately uses it again.
That's a bad day for that party.
That's a bad day.
Yeah,
So
that's what we call a bad day.
and but more than just being like cool, right? It's just like, hey, Darren Anderson with 15 months of adventure.
Oh,
Thank you.
RFC's yelling at us about something. Tell me everything you hated about 4E in detail. Tear down your idols before me. Put this towards SC more PF2 magic items. Oh, because he wanted to be super chat, but he
No, it's a super chat. It's a super chat. It'll go to super chat.
it just hasn't logged it yet.
Roll for Combat is saying, tell me everything you hated about 4E. And you know what, Steven? We are here teaching the game.
Yes.
If we have
Score round
time,
table. Bob, what do you hate about 4?
I don't know.
All right.
I think it's gonna be too complex for my brain.
there is absolutely things that we did not like about 4th edition. You know, there is absolutely things we did not like about 4th edition. I mean, like because of this was a very generous tip. We even were explaining the game.
Yeah, we'll pause.
We'll pause for just a brief moment. We won't go into detail.
Let stations identify.
My biggest complaint about 4th edition is that the game is very, very fiddly, which is to say there are powers and abilities that give, +1 to hit, +2 to defenses. It lasts until the start of your next turn, the end of their next turn, the start of your next turn, the end of their next turn. So you end up with this situation where you have a lot of these sort of powers and abilities overlapping. Now, there's a certain number of bonus types. There's power bonus, feat bonus, etc. So some things don't stack. But
More than Pathfinder.
But
it's
if you
not
could,
convenient.
but if you could imagine, right? But if you could imagine, there might be a lot of conditional abilities that typically last a round. Now, at the same time, they're nice about it. There are times where they go, "This lasts until the end of encounter." Use it.
Yeah,
It's
dailies.
it's locked in,
So
and
that's
it's
easy.
easy. It's easy enough. But there are a lot of instances where the game basically is like very like, here's a +1 bonus, there's a +2 bonus, maybe. Here's a bonus to damage if you're flanking. So it's very fiddly.
I'm gonna forget all those because I forgot deny advantage 100 times. I'm gonna forget my +1.
It was hard, and basically the way you have to manage it is we did 2 things. One, we wrote things down that were like general on the tactiles, like we use for AV.
Yep.
Like we would just write down +1 EONT attack, right? We were very judicious with things like the little color tokens and stuff like that, right? Gray meant marked, right? Gray always meant marked. It only meant marked, right? Oh, this creature's taking damage like at the end of their turn, right? Things like that, right?
That's those little counter.
yeah.
The little
So visual cues.
They would get like this high sometimes at higher levels. Right?
Yeah, but the visual cues, there's like the only way.
I mean, another way to think of it is look at some of these high-level Pathfinder 2 games.
Yeah, look
And
at Foundry.
And somebody the other day was like, they're like, did you know that the status effect bar in Foundry for Pathfinder 2 has a scroll bar?
That's
I
how
was
many they had.
That's how many they had. They had so many status effects, it went off the bottom of their screen, and they had to give them a scroll bar because they had something like 27 different effects on them.
Wow, that's awesome though.
It was like, how do you track? Now again, I mean, Pathfinder 2, shares a lot in common with this game. So, I think that fiddliness is something that I, sometimes lamented and sometimes kind of fought against.
100%.
Frostcheck makes a point because of this. You have to start players at level 1. You can't just jump them in.
Correct.
I absolutely think you can.
totally agree with
And by the way, we'll get into this, but like the game, because if you're playing with a veteran crew, I would actually probably change this up. If the game starts you off deliberately, the game is balanced around you having like four of a certain type of power, 4 encounter powers, 4 daily powers. The game starts you off with 1. It doesn't have to. Like, it could start you off with 4, and it would be totally fine. But it doesn't. It starts you off at 1. And over the course of the first 10 levels of the game, it adds to your powers until they reach 4. And then you don't ever get any more.
Okay.
It just replaces your current ones.
So once you get to... So basically, it's like in Pathfinder 2nd edition terms, it would be like if you started off with 10 spell slots, right? But then once you got to 10 spell slots, you didn't get 11 or 12 or 13 or 14. You just replaced your lower level ones with higher level ones. Yeah. So, but yeah, like you kind of have to sort of earn your way into it. So that is probably for me the number one thing that I kind of, hated about 4E. Is it could be very fiddly.
Yeah. And, I agree with that. And specifically too, just like, it's like fiddly with lots of numbers. Pathfinder 2, as high as those numbers are, you're typically adding only a handful at a time.
This is true.
With 4E, there's a lot of different numbers being added based on all kinds of different conditionals.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to have to like not drink during 4E.
Well, and again, though, it doesn't start that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Level 1, you're like, cool, I'm going to throw an AoE, and maybe the leader gave you a +1 bonus.
Yeah, so hopefully you can just work yourself into it, train your brain.
Yeah, I mean, it challenges the player and challenges the game. So that is probably the number one thing. We got another super chat.
Ryan.
Again, you know what, Steven, by the way, from Roll for Combat, it's going to be on the channel on Thursday. Steven, if you want, we can do a special section about 4E, and we can have like a nice, like, Steven versus Derek. I'll do real clickbait. Like, Steven, just like
the Street Fighter versus?
Street Fighter versus. And it'll be like me and Steven, fighting and competing. But yeah, KC says, like, kind of like wave spell slots, but for powers. Yes. Actually, exactly like that, KC.
I was thinking about the Magus we were talking about.
Yep, it's just like the Magus or the Summoner. You get a couple more than they do, because I think they get 2 and 2, but yeah, basically.
So Ryan says to D&D 4E, just remember all the circumstantial modifiers in 3rd edition and Pathfinder 1 compared to that the floating modifiers in 4E are tame.
Look, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. There is absolutely a lot of modifiers in both games. But in my personal opinion, 4th edition, because you have these cool powers and because you can use them every round and because everybody has them, they just come up a lot more.
That's the key. They're coming up a lot more for a lot less time. Typically in 3rd edition, I absolutely had like a sheet this long that was filled with just my buffs. And usually I ended a number which I just added. And then rarely that changed in the combat, right?
Right.
But in 4E, it's changing constantly.
Right.
Which... That's a con, but I also want to stress it's a pro if you're into that, right? When people talk about tactical combat, like when I think tactical combat, I'm thinking about a game like that where like you have all these different powers and all these different positions, and your powers do so many different things, have so many different types of radiuses, range burst, auras, things like that. Like there's so much that goes into a combat compared to I do think PF2 is relatively a little bit simpler comparatively. If you are embracing that, it's awesome, right? Yeah. But if you're not in the mood for that, you're going to be frustrated as hell.
Oh yeah. So then we'll have to talk about we'll be sending messages. How's your Friday going? I'm stressed out. Maybe not for
theater to mind tonight. Skill challenge battles.
So I want to finish hit points, and then I want to talk skills real quick, and then we'll be done. We're going to make a character.
Sweet.
All right. So
how long does a character take to make in 4E?
Well, probably like 30 minutes.
Okay.
I would say with our help. I mean, in real, you could spend hours looking through all because there was a lot of feats and powers that came up.
I know that you said obviously you need a for sure session 0. Yeah. Because you guys at the table need to work together.
Yeah, because we're
going to be speed running.
We'll get to this when we talk about classes. But 4th edition, for those of you who don't know, 4th edition has very defined roles for your character classes. And to be blunt, your character is not going to be really good at doing something that is outside their wheelhouse. In this game, fighters are a defender. They are a tank. They are a tank in the MMO sense, right? Yeah. Where they have abilities that literally make them a target for the enemy's attacks. Like a taunt style mechanic. It's called marking. They don't do a lot of damage. In fact, they're designed not to do a lot of damage because if they could do a lot of damage...
So the fighter doesn't do a lot of damage?
The fighter does not do a lot of damage.
So compared to a full strength.
The fighter does not do a lot of damage.
No, because you're forgetting something, which is there's 2 things that make up your class.
Okay.
The role and the power type. Okay. The power source.
The role that you're going to pick.
The role. So in the case of a fighter, he's a defender. Mm-hmm. And the power source is martial.
Okay.
The power source influences how your powers are going to manifest, and they typically lean a certain way. So martial leans to doing damage. So any martial class is going to do a good amount of damage. It's kind of like their secondary thing, right? The arcane power source leads to control, meaning even if you're like a bard, which is a leader arcane, that bard will have control type powers for locking down enemies and stuff like that, right? Another good example is the paladin. The paladin is a defender, like the fighter, but with the divine power source. So paladins don't do a lot of damage, but they get leader-like power. So a paladin can like buff and do some healing on other people, right?
Okay.
So everything gets kind of split up that way. So you have to look at, what is making up your class? What is the role? And then what is the power source behind it? Because fighters can do okay damage. Now, will they do as much as a striker? No, because that's the striker's job.
When you say striker, that's a class?
That's
striker's
a
a
role.
role.
Oh, roll.
Yeah. So
Strikers do damage.
Yeah.
So you could be a fighter
video games term,
striker?
well, no.
Okay.
So, although people are saying, "What about the Slayer?" I don't count 4E essentials. So I don't count the Slayer as an exception. I don't. Just as a random thing. Oh, by the way, something I hated about
everyone's talking about this.
something
Slayer.
I hated RFC. Something I hated Heroes of the Forgotten Kingdoms and Heroes of the Fallen Lands. I hated the essentials classes a lot.
And Slayer.
yeah.
Like everyone.
Yeah. So I hated that. No, what Aaron is saying is that a class will have two components to it.
But so I pick fighter.
Yep.
Right.
And then I get
That is a martial defender.
it's locked in.
it's locked in.
That's what I was trying to get at. I thought you picked a class and then you picked a role.
Yeah.
No. It's
Got
locked in. In fact, when you go to pick a class, what you should think of first is what role do you want to play?
Got it.
Part
Then that's kind of what I was
Right,
getting
and
at.
that's what I was trying to say.
Usually
Like,
I think of what kind of class do I want.
The
Yeah.
role is like the most important part. The power source is more of a mostly kind of a flavor thing.
Well, again, I'm just trying to say you're not going to do no damage. A fighter is probably like in the second best, like
A tier.
of
Okay.
damage, right?
So what
because
is
they're martial.
so?
And a paladin might
So
be
what's
like
a
third.
striker? Barbarian.
Striker's a barbarian.
Yeah, that's
Anything
primal.
else?
barbarian.
Guess what else?
I'm trying to think. What would also be? It can't be. Can it be a ranger?
Ranger
Let's do
is a
a test.
striker.
Let's go down to classes, right? Okay. So what's a cleric? You know what the roles are first.
No, that's
Okay,
what I was
let's
going
see.
Oh,
to
okay. Well, never
yeah.
mind. This is a pointless exercise.
We got to talk about the roles. This is important.
We
I
do
was like,
not.
the roles seem more
We're
important
going to
than
talk about the hit points first.
They're more important than the classes. Sounds like.
The rules are like the most important thing in the game.
Okay.
But Derek wants to talk to you about hit points. So.
Yes. So hit points. We're talking about Constitution.
Yes.
Because this is why rolls are important. It's called healing surges.
Yes.
All right. And healing surges are 4th edition's attrition resource.
Okay.
Each class will get a certain number of healing surges per day. This is modified by your character's Constitution modifier. So for example, a fighter might have
I think it starts 7.
7. I was going to say 7. A fighter might have 7 surges a day. But if your
So the surges per day is based on your class.
it's based on your class, and then you would add your Constitution modifier.
Okay.
So let's say my Constitution modifier was a +3. I would have 10 surges
Someone's
per
saying
day.
9 in chat.
Okay, it's not. Someone is saying 9. All right, so it would be 9 plus 3.
9.
It would be 12. Okay.
Everyone at home's got their 4E books.
Yeah,
ready
they got
too.
their 40 bucks. Now, you can see here next to that it says surge value, and you'll see it says quarter
So
hit points.
in our example, it'll be 25.
Exactly.
Okay.
This means that 12 times a day
I can heal for 25.
you can heal for 25. But
That makes sense.
there's a catch.
Okay.
The catch is if you're out of combat, right? If you're, in exploration mode, you can do this as many times as you want.
It doesn't count as your surges per day.
No, it does.
No, it does,
Oh.
but you can just spend them all.
You could go, I need
Oh.
75 hit points. I'm going to spend 3 surges and I get back 75.
But in combat, it's an
in
action?
combat, you can only do it once and it's an
combat?
action.
It's
Per
an encounter
combat
power.
and it's an action.
And it's an
That's
action.
called your second win.
And it's called Second Wind. In fact, if
Okay.
you look right below the hit point section, you'll see it says Second Wind once per encounter used with a checkbox. Right here.
Oh, down there. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can only use this once per fight, which means once per fight. Now, Bob, this may sound a little familiar to you because this is basically how I kind of house ruled used the existing rule set from the GMG from Pathfinder 2, the stamina system,
Oh, yeah,
and the
yeah.
resolve system. Do you remember that?
That was
Do you remember
such a
it was
good
called
system.
Steal Yourself?
Yeah.
And it let you heal.
Yeah, we had to resolve.
You had resolve.
Yeah.
Resolve is basically the same thing as surges. Okay.
I like that because you're like, how do you steal yourself? And I was like,
Exactly.
okay, how
So
do I do that?
in the game, if you want, your character can take, and by the way, second wind takes basically your turn off, but you get to heal. But that's why we're talking about where dwarves are sweet. Dwarves,
because in 4E you just had move and attack.
you had move. No. You had standard.
What?
You had standard.
You take a standard action.
Which is
Okay.
That's gonna be like a power,
That's what
like
it's called in
attack.
5th edition too. It's called a standard action. Standard action.
Yep.
Move action.
Yep.
You have what's called a minor action.
Okay,
In
'cause
5th
it's
edition,
bonus.
they would have called it a bonus.
Okay, yeah.
The difference is that in 5th edition, you only had a bonus action if you had something that you could
So
use
that's
as a
what you're
bonus
saying.
action.
So dwarfs can use it as a minor action
Correct.
instead of a standard action.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Right. So you're still like attacking or whatever.
So a dwarf, like a human fighter who wanted to use their second win would have to basically take their turn. They couldn't attack. They have to take their turn off because they'd have to use a standard action to do it. A dwarf could use a minor action and still be able to move and attack. Now, this is where the healers of the game come in. Clerics, druids, stuff.
These are called leaders.
They're called leaders. Leaders get abilities that let you heal, but they can do it in combat. But realize it still uses a healing surge.
Their healing surge?
Your healing
Oh,
surge.
okay.
Which means if you run out of surges, you can no longer be healed.
And there's no way to heal?
There are a handful of special powers that clerics,
What about
classes,
items?
clerics,
Healing potions?
healing
Healing
potions
potions take
use
a
your healing
surge.
surge.
What?
Yep.
In fact, healing potions suck
wait a second.
because you don't get the benefits of your surge.
Actually, they can be good though.
So
It depends on the potion.
real
Some people
quickly,
have the potion
yeah.
has a higher hit point value. Than
Ryan in the chat asked,
Yep.
how do you tip if you do not have a PayPal account?
Oh,
So I assume that just means like you have to have a credit card.
well, no. If you don't have a PayPal account, I don't know if you can tip, Ryan.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how to tip.
can
thing.
super
I think
chat if you like.
you could super chat, which goes obviously through the thing. But yeah, I think the Stream Elements is tied through
PayPal?
tied through PayPal. So
Okay.
it may
Never
not work.
mind then.
It may
Yeah.
not work, buddy.
I just wanted to make sure.
No,
we
no,
got to him.
I appreciate that.
And the second thing was, so what is the healing potions? So in Pathfinder they have minor and moderate and
Yep.
major.
Yep.
Is there just healing potion and it just uses your healing surge? Like, how does it?
No,
how
I
does
think
it,
they level up too.
and it says what use two healing surges?
You're
Like-
wondering what the healing potion
Well,
heals
because
for?
healing potions say heal for 1d8 hit points or something, or 1d4 hit points. So, like, what is it saying in this? Is it saying use healing? Because the healing surge is 25 in our example. So, what is it saying?
Unfortunately, I don't. Look how bad that scrolls.
Oh wow, PDS.
Holy crap! All right.
Oh, that went faster.
Here we go. Potion of healing. So here
if
you
it
can see,
said potion of elixir, I would have lost my mind.
so you can see here. This is a level 5 potion, Bob.
Okay.
And it says consumable, minor action. Drink this potion and spend a healing surge. Instead of the hit points you would normally regain, you regain 10 hit points.
So it's wow. So that's terrible.
Yes.
But if you don't have second wind anymore because you already used it,
Okay, you could use it in combat.
Yes.
that's why you have
Also,
it.
by the way, remember your level 5 character, Bob, might only have 50 hit points.
Right.
Oh, so okay. So
And there's higher level potions.
And there's higher level
okay,
potions.
So in our example, that would be a bad healing
right.
potion.
So for example,
normally.
if your normal healing surge value is 12,
Yeah.
getting 10,
that's pretty good.
it's okay. It's not
And
great.
To be
using
clear,
it-
your first level character won't have 100 hit points. Derek's doing that because it's really divisible by
No,
four.
I
Yeah,
got
I'm making it
that.
very
Yeah,
easy,
I got
guys.
that. Okay.
So what this means is that your character is limited. By the way, this was another thing that people were upset about because they're like, "What do you mean I can't be healed anymore? Like, what if a cleric comes in? What if they have a wand? What if they have a healing potion? What if they have cure light wounds?" No.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
So
I was just trying to think of like narratively, like it just seems like
Now, to be
guys
clear-
will-
Narratively, I got it for you, Bob.
okay.
Eye of the World. Do you remember Moraine doing healing? And she makes the comment that the power can only provide some of it. The strength of the healing comes
Yeah.
from the person that's being healed.
From within.
Yep. When I first read 4th edition and saw those rules, I had a similar reaction, like,
Yeah.
oh, what? And then I was like, oh, yeah, it's kind of like real time, which of course means I
But
love
it also fixes. It
Ties
also
everything together
And to
for
be
you.
fair, Pathfinder 2 tried to fix this issue in other ways. The other thing it fixes is this: in 3rd edition, people given a choice, people would heal to full after every fight.
Right.
And they would use their spells, and eventually they would use cheap wands and potions. It was called Cure Light Wounds wand span, and people would just heal to full, which meant there was no attrition.
Yeah.
Because your character was at full hit points and didn't lose anything. And then you get to Pathfinder 2, and they said they realized the same problem. And so what they did instead was just say, well, you can heal to full forever, which means you cannot wear the characters down.
Yeah. Which I don't like, but then I also like narratively, it just makes sense that the cleric will be able to heal me. But then I get it, like your body can only heal so much.
Correct. What it becomes is it becomes a tension mechanic.
Yeah. No,
right?
I like that part.
And so it becomes something where when your character is asked, you got to save the princess.
Yeah.
But you only have this many surges. You kind of have to make them last. You have to kind of make them work.
Whereas in Pathfinder 2, it's like, as long as we can
Well,
heal.
in Pathfinder 2, it also has this weird situation where it's like, yeah, we can heal to full, but also it randomly takes like an hour.
Yeah. The only thing that really is the
5th edition has
the spell slots.
Right.
If my spell slots are low, then we go back and
Correct.
long rest.
So
what about long resting? I assume that is how you get your surges back?
That is how you get your surges.
That's how you get your surges.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about real quick is skills. These are very simple. All of your skills are ability modifier plus half your level. Right? So acrobatics uses dexterity. So you
TRND.
that means trained.
Oh, okay.
And
You're
it
trained,
adds,
you get plus
and adds
5.
plus 5.
Okay.
And so, but the key here is your ability modifier plus half level always goes up. So even if you're not trained in a skill, if your character was 20th level,
Do you round up or round down?
I think you round down.
Okay.
So long story short, you don't have the scaling proficiency like you have in Pathfinder 2.
Dungeoneering?
Where yeah,
What the heck?
it's like, do you know stuff about what's going on in the dungeon? I think.
But you said that this really isn't like a dungeon crawling type game.
I agree.
Well, you still go into dungeons. In fact, this game is huge on dungeons. It's in the name. It's not like the classic dungeon crawl experience.
Correct. Okay.
This is like going into dungeons, like going into
do
a
like
Diablo
Streetwise.
dungeon,
It's
or
like
going
Diablo
or
dungeon.
going into a World of Warcraft dungeon.
Yes.
Right? It's a little bit more like kicking in the front doors, kicking ass, and taking names.
Streetwise is kind of funny. Bluff is like deception.
Yep. Bluff is deception. Diplomacy is diplomacy. Dungeoneering, again, is sort of like your awareness of like traps and tricks and all the stuff that goes in a dungeon.
It's just kind of funny to say, I'm trained in dungeoneering.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a funny
I mean, to be fair,
lifestyle.
there's a feat in 5th edition called, I think, Dungeoneering or Dungeon Delver or something like that.
It's just interesting to think about. Yes.
So
the skill I really like here is endurance. This is a great tool for like GMs when they're like, I don't know, make an endurance check, right?
that's really a way to describe it.
well, because endurance is such a great thing to have. That's just a classic thing for adventure. Like, how far can you go? How long can you run? How much can you endure? How much you can take? Like, I really like this being a skill in this game because it's just like a really easy way to like test characters.
So would you penalize if they failed?
What's that?
What would you penalize if they failed?
Depends entirely on the circumstances.
Yeah.
You might lose a healing surge.
Could lose a healing surge.
Well, as I was thinking, like you're like saying, okay, they're pushing on. Let's test some endurance checks real quick.
100%.
And then it's like, okay, well, what's the penalty? Okay, well, I gotta pull it at some lever somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and Hoyrat says, I like healing surges, but I don't like the name. And again, we kind of talked about this when we said, why don't people like 4th edition? Because 4th edition was it didn't, sometimes like D&D tries to get too cutesy, like it calls things that aren't really, they're like, oh, it's very evocative. It's very cool sounding, but it doesn't necessarily tell you straight up, like, this is what it does. Very clear cut. Healing surges is very, it's a blunt instrument. It's basically going, healing surges, and like it's very, very direct with it. And, for some people, it loses some of that kind of, mystery, Whereas,
I mean, it depends because if my brain is fried from running a game, then I want this to be as simple wording as possible.
I mean, I've always thought a lot of the mechanics, the names of mechanics are stupid, right? Armor class, like what are we, a naval boat? Like,
I've never liked
right. The term armor class came from naval warfare games.
Right.
And so we've kept
we just hit points.
Yeah.
Like that sounds so jank. The number of times I can be hit. My points are low. Like it's all stupid.
Yeah.
So for people to like die on the healing surge hill,
because like you got hit points and bloody sounds
healing
cool.
surge is just as ridiculous sounding as hit point, saving throw,
What is
armor
that?
class. It is exactly the case. But again, so those are sort of the basics of the game. So let's go and make a character.
All right. First thing, most important thing, character name.
First thing, most important thing, character name.
The number one most important thing
so
with
we've
naming a character
Bob.
is, or having a character is naming your
Let's
character.
see what the rules are for that.
Yeah, we don't have the rules for
Oh,
that.
there's rules?
No. They do give us examples. Now, as Aaron was saying, there's a couple different ways that when you make a character, and again, I wasn't counting on how badly this thing would scroll. you do create ability scores.
You wanna borrow
And what's that?
You want to borrow my book?
No, I meant for them at home.
Oh, okay.
So that they can actually see what's going on. So there's sort of an order of operations. You can, you can be thinking about your character's class and race when you're, making your ability scores.
Think about roll.
But I'm saying the way that you make a character is you generate ability scores.
It's actually incorrect. Step 1 is choose class and race.
Okay, well then I was completely wrong. All right. Fuck your ability scores. All right.
Because you don't know what you need for your abilities.
I guess that's true. You know what?
Have your
The
class.
default method is an array, not rolling.
Correct.
So you're absolutely correct. All right. So Bob, here we go. Character
But you
classes.
said don't pick class, pick a roll.
Well, right.
I would recommend to start with a roll, which will let you make the class.
So I know there's a striker.
Is
I know
that-
there's a defender. I know there's a leader.
Yep. And there's a controller.
Controller.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to read what the book says. Here it says, roles also serve as handy tools for building adventuring parties. It's a good idea to cover each role with at least one character.
Makes
And if you have 5 or 6 players in your group, it's best to double up on defender first, then striker. If you don't have all the roles covered, that's okay too, but it does mean that characters will need to compensate for the missing function. So this is kind of a way of saying, like, if you have a party, don't all be defenders.
Yeah, a well-balanced party is there's 4 of them.
Somebody should do the deeps.
Yeah.
Somebody should do the buffing and the healing. Somebody should do the AoEs and you can't all be like, I'm defending. Who are you defending? The guy who defends?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, in this Player's Handbook 1, they had in Player's Handbook 1, you had martial characters, people who use swords and bows and sort of natural grit. You had arcane characters who use the power of magic, and you had divine characters who use the power of faith and religion.
Okay.
And those got broken down into 4 roles. So the controller deal with large number of enemies at the same time. They favor offense over defense, using powers that deal damage to multiple foes at once. Think fireball.
Yeah.
As well as subtle powers that will weaken, confuse, or delay their foes. So when you think controller, Bob, think wizard.
Yeah.
Think a character who can slow, a character who could icing grip and make monsters unable to move, a character who can drop a big fireball and do a bunch of damage.
So wizard, is there sorcerer in this type of game?
There
Is that
is.
later
It's
on?
not in this book,
Got it,
but
okay.
we'll get to that in a second because this is where something I personally really, really like.
Can you guess what the sorcerer is?
It is not a controller.
Oh, striker?
Yep.
Wow. That was my second guess, but I would have thought for sure controller.
And the
Arcane
reason they
striker.
do that is because, right, when you you're like, I want to be a magic person, right? I want to be an
Why
arcane.
not just be the wizard then?
Right. What would be the difference between a sorcerer and a wizard then?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Huh.
So sorcerers feel very different to a wizard because wizards
That's
are doing all these AoEs, but they don't really do a lot of damage. Right? It's a
Interesting.
little bit of damage to a lot of creatures. Sorcerers can single target blast the hell out of things.
Okay.
Right? And just kind of
So that
roast them.
definitely feels different.
It's
Just
very
by
different.
saying that it feels different.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
We did get a super chat.
Oh, we get a super chat. What do we got here?
It says, Bob, don't sweat getting started. I ran D&D encounters completely hammered. Such a great system. Very sensible and easy to understand.
D&D Encounters was a great system. I mean, it's a
What
little
is D&D encounters?
It was basically like kind of like their organized play. It was like
Oh,
it was
okay.
like a very kind of simple system of
but
encounters.
for 4E?
It was almost like Monster Hunts in a way.
Yeah, it was kind of like Monster Hunts.
But for 4E?
Yeah, for 4E. Yeah,
Oh,
for
so he was
pretty
doing it hammered? Okay.
and he was saying he was completely hammered. So
Man, I don't know. These guys have seen me hammered, and I don't know if I can handle. PF2 was a little hard to handle.
Right.
Drinking. We were drinking meat at the time, I think.
Oh, the mead was good stuff. So that is what a controller does. A defender have the highest defenses in the game, and generally they're pretty good at close up
So
offense.
that means AC, fort, reflex, will.
They're going to have high. They're definitely going to have high ACs.
Okay.
but they're going to also have some pretty good defenses as well. They might have a one weakness in their chink in their armor, right? They're the party's front line, and wherever they're standing, that's where the action is. Defenders have abilities and powers that make it difficult for enemies to move past them or to ignore them in battle.
Okay.
And one of the things that we've talked about time and time again in here is defenders in this game have powers and abilities and special reactions that literally make it so that the enemy is incentivized to attack them.
Which you said was like marking.
Marking is the
Mark is the basic mechanic.
marking is the marquee concept for this. But there's other little subtler things too. Like for example, everybody in this game gets attack of opportunity,
Which is like D&D.
which is like D&D, 3rd edition, 4th edition, and 5th edition, not like Pathfinder 2. Everybody gets attack of opportunity. Somebody moves away, you can swing at them and hit them. If a
God,
fighter,
I don't know if I like that or not. Like,
if
I
a
don't know.
fighter does that and hits you, you stop moving. So
Only
it's
the fighter?
that's a
Just a
fighter's
fighter. That's a
only
fighter.
thing.
Not even a defender, just a fighter.
Kinda
Right.
cool.
So that means that
That's kinda
like
brutal.
that means if a fighter goes in and bases up a couple different monsters,
Where you going?
and
Where you
they
going?
want to go attack the, because let's be clear, this is not Pathfinder 2. In Pathfinder 2, the armor class of the wizard or the sorcerer is the same armor class as the rogue, is the same armor class as the cleric, which is 1 point lower than the armor class of the fighter. Right? They're all on the same AC.
And that's just until they pick up champion.
right.
So true.
So in this game, the defenses of the wizard or the defenses of the rogue or the ranger
Be dramatically
are
different.
very dramatically different.
Okay.
They cannot get beat on. Their hit points are lower. Their healing surges are less. So not only do they have less hit points, they have less sustain over the long duration of the day. Our fighter example had 12. Your wizard might have like
Yeah.
6.
That's the important thing. Because like
You really
Pathfinder
have
2, everyone's kind of the same, more or less, with like 1 or 2 points of deviation. But again, going back to the team-based here, you got to protect your back line.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So now granted, the only thing I would change about opportunity attacks in this game is I would if I were to house rule 4th edition is I would steal from strike and I would just make them
damage.
I would make it automatic damage. Just to make it quick and fast and also make it scarier. But anyways, so the point is, Bob, if your group is taking damage, let's say your group is going to take 100 damage as a group, you want to put as much of that damage onto the defender as possible
makes
because
sense.
their healing surges are worth
worth
more, and they have more of them.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So
And you want the healer, the leader, to be healing the defender because that makes your heals even more efficient.
Correct.
So if you get a nice heal from a leader and spend one of your surges because the sorcerer didn't have to because you protected them, you just saved everyone in a party multiple surges and resources and all that stuff.
Cool.
Right, that's where the team-based play really comes in.
So there's 2 in the base game, Player's Handbook 1, there's 2 defenders. There's the fighter and the paladin. Then we have the leader. Leaders inspire, heal, and aid other characters in the adventuring group. Leaders have good defenses, but their strength lies in powers that protect their companions and target specific foes for the party to concentrate on. These are the healers and the buffers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, in this game, you have 2 leaders, the cleric, and of course, the very famous warlord.
And the warlord, this was the first and only time they've appeared in Dungeons & Dragons.
You'll see a lot
That's
of
what
people.
you played, right, Smith? And there's already someone in the chat.
That was a class I
Warlord
always
hype.
wanted to play.
Like there are people who go, I can't stand 4th edition, but the warlord was pretty sweet. Like
I don't know if I've ever met anyone who said the warlord sucked.
Yeah, and I will say this:
And
having,
everyone in the chat saying the same thing.
I mean, I played again. I was a game master for 30 levels with this guy who played a warlord, and it was so awesome.
I've never been happier,
Like
honestly.
it's such a cool class. I mean, I'm not. I think all the classes are cool and they can all do cool things, but it felt really, really, really cool. So then the last type is the striker, and guess what they do? They do high damage to single targets.
Single target, high damage. Yep.
Right, and that's the ranger, that's the rogue, that's the warlock.
Yeah, I'm
Now-
not seeing my barbarian.
Right.
Hang
Well,
on, we'll get there.
because barbarians did not come out in Player's Handbook 1. Barbarians came out in Player's Handbook 2.
Is that advanced? Am I advanced for playing a barbarian?
No, but this is important. And again, in Pathfinder 1, or especially in D&D 3rd edition, barbarians were just a guy, who got angry and attacked a lot.
Yeah.
Pathfinder 2 kind of subtly gets into this, right? Where the barbarian is more than just some guy. The barbarian actually has a little bit of like primal
Yeah.
magic.
In fact, that's their power source. Primal.
So
Yeah,
barbarians
like a
are
hidden
not
beast within me.
Barbarians are not a martial character
Correct,
class.
they're
In fact, Player's Handbook 2 introduced a new power source to add to martial, arcane, and divine. It added the 4th power source, which is called primal.
Nice.
Okay.
So this is the first time Primal came into.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
So-
and what's cool, so you know how like martial typically does more damage and divine typically heals. Primal's kind of gimmick is the class kind of had a secondary class as part of it.
Okay.
So like for the case of barbarian, they are primarily a striker,
Yes.
but they can be basically kind of like a second tier defender if needed. And you can actually build in that way. The druid was a leader, I believe, who could also
No, they were a controller.
they were a controller who could then also be a leader.
Oh, okay.
Right. And if you think about how that kind of plays in traditional D&D, it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Right. The Barbarian can totally get hit in the face, but probably not as well or as long as like maybe an armored fighter, right?
Absolutely.
But
Now,
certainly more than the
Were
sorcerer.
barbarians like unarmored in 4E a lot too? Like,
Well, we could take a look here. So
They
this
were
is
built
so
that
this
way.
is what the barbarian class.
that looks just like me.
This is what the barbarian class looks like. So the first thing you can see here is roll striker. Right? This is telling you exactly what you do. And then, by the way, it says you use powerful two-handed weapons to deal serious damage to your enemies.
This sounds exactly what I want to do.
Your physical power and daunting presence can cause foes to cower before you, and you can temporarily increase your abilities by harnessing great bursts of terrifying rage. Depending on your class features and powers, you lean towards either defender or leader as a secondary role. So this is, again, what Primal does. Primal's shtick is that they're kind of main one thing, but also kind of another thing. They get like something in the back.
Okay.
So depending on what kind of barbarian you build, you could build a barbarian who is like super tough, can take a ton of damage. It's kind of like a tank.
Yeah.
Even though they're a damage dealer.
Yeah.
But you could also build a barbarian, I think it's called Thaneborn, is like, you like hype everybody up.
Oh, okay.
You know, and like you get everybody kind of like
the cry, the war.
Thaneborn Triumph. You gain the roar of triumph power. In addition, whenever you bloody an enemy. So again, you bloody an enemy, which is a very striker thing to do. The next attack by you or an ally against the enemy gains a bonus to attack roll equal to your charisma modifier.
To
which
my
is
charisma
the
thing.
leader part.
That's
Oh,
the leader
cool.
part. Like,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like a buff. So like you bloody an enemy and you're like, get hype. Let's go. Right. And so then your rogue buddy comes in and he gets that bonus to attack.
Yeah, buddy.
Hype train.
And then, hype train connect.
Yeah,
so that's
100%.
so then we see here power source. It does say primal. You are
Barbarian leaders lead by example. I like that. I like that.
that's actually pretty good for us,
pretty
Jack.
good.
That's actually pretty good. So
pretty good.
barbarian has primal, and then it says here key abilities: strength, constitution, charisma. And again, that charisma is because you might take some of those
Okay.
leaderish powers, but it's a little bit of a, again, barbarian. You have to think the role striker.
Yeah.
They're more of a damage dealer.
Yes.
Right. But they can be built for kind of
Sweet.
toughness. So you can see here armor, cloth, leather, hide. So they can use cloth, leather, or hide armor.
Okay.
They get melee weapon proficiencies. They do not even get ranged weapon proficiencies.
Okay. They're not throwing anything.
They are not throwing.
They're throwing their temper.
Okay. You can see that they get a +2 bonus to their fortitude defense.
Sweet.
And then here we go.
So that's where class.
That's where the class bonus comes in. Yep. Hit points at first level is 15 plus your constitution score.
Yeah.
So if your constitution
up
was
there.
15, you would start the game with 30 hit points.
Sweet.
Okay. Now again, remember they're a striker, but you can see that they get 8 healing surges a day. That's only one less than the fighter.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So they actually have a lot of meat.
And their starting hit points is the same.
And their starting hit points is the same as a fighter. So they are basically they're not a glass cannon, right?
So I'm gonna do
This
more,
is not the
I'm
Pathfinder.
gonna do more
Barbarian.
damage than the fighter because I'm a striker.
Yes, you'll do more damage
Way
than the
more.
fighter,
But
way
I'm gonna
more.
be not as good as defending if I went to the defender role as a fighter because the
Correct.
fighter is primarily defending.
Correct. The fighter is going to have a high armor class.
Yeah.
The fighter is going to have more powers and abilities that allow them to sort of mitigate damage and defend the people around them. Your character, for example, the fighter, anytime they attack anyone for any reason, that character that monster becomes marked.
Yeah.
The barbarian doesn't have that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So again, it's
Okay.
it's a kind of a different way of approaching and sort of thinking about it.
Okay.
But
What else do they get?
then you get some class features. Barbarian agility, feral might, rage, strike, rampage. So we're going to get to that in a second. So let's go back over to our character sheet here.
Yeah, just put in barbarian.
So class, we're going to go ahead and put in barbarian. And again, we're level 1.
Sure, Bob. That's what you want to do.
Barbarian.
All right. Now, again, you kind of, we can come back to this and think about this, but one of the things that you're going to think about when you think about your ability scores is what kind of barbarian you want to be.
Defender.
Now, okay, so there you go. So there's 2 types of barbarians in the game. In this book.
Yeah.
There's
probably
a
Yeah.
supplement book.
I'm sure.
You have Aaron mentioned before the Thaneborn barbarian. There's also the Rage Blood barbarian. Right, so the
That
rate,
sounds
and by
sweet.
the way, the game is very, 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 again, opaque. Or it's not even opaque.
Direct.
I'm sorry, transparent.
Oh, yeah,
very
transparent. Yeah.
yeah. You can withstand a great deal of physical punishment, especially when you are in the throes of rage. At higher level, your powers, particularly your rages, visibly manifest the spirits sacred to your tribe. Strength should be your highest ability score, since you use it for your attacks.
Yeah.
But make Constitution a close second. Charisma might be your third best score, especially if you want to use some of the powers that are more designed for that Thane-born barbarian
Because you can
build.
still grab them if you
still
want.
grab.
Okay.
Yeah.
You-
okay.
You're not
This
gonna
is
get
where we
the-
talked
the
about it's-
Thane-born specific
This is-
powers.
correct.
Right. This is where we talked about 4E usually uses a carrot instead of a stick.
Yeah.
Like if you're a Thane-born barbarian, those powers might do a little bit more, but you could still take them.
Okay.
Rage Blood barbarians lean towards defender as a secondary role. And then they even have what skills they suggest you start with, what
Now, am I supposed
powers.
to put that in somewhere on here? Because I don't really see it.
What's that?
Like the Rage Born. Like or I just know that.
No,
Like, it doesn't,
because-
it doesn't have my role. It doesn't have my.
Well, you don't need to know your role.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I mean, you mean on your character sheet?
You just put barbarian. I mean, all
Yeah.
I put is barbarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that because there is no other role for the barbarian, so it doesn't
That's
matter.
on my point. I don't put Rageborn somewhere on there.
You kind of do, because by
Yeah.
being a Rage Blood barbarian, what this means is you get the Rage Blood Vigor
Yeah,
class
so where does
feature.
that go?
It goes on
part of class features.
right here, class, path, and destiny
Oh,
features.
down farther. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, we get the
Rageborn.
no. That technically is not what you have.
Lied.
You get Rage Blood Vigor.
Rage Blood Vigor.
All right. So, why is this the worst thing ever? There we go. All right. So,
Hey, look at that. I don't know how people can't like that color.
right. It's
It's so
That's
visually
right.
instantly grab you.
Yep.
Man.
You know exactly what you're looking for.
That's
you
what
know?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. Some people are weird.
I cannot.
You okay?
No, it's just for some odd reason, this thing scrolls like this. I don't know. All right.
Was it doing that off?
No, it's just. I think it's just a combination of this mouse and this PDF browser. It doesn't have like a. Maybe there's like a fast
Are the arrow
scroll.
keys faster?
No, it's like it
Oh,
moves.
seems slower.
It just moves one tick at a time, so it's kind of annoying to fly around with. I didn't. Obviously, this is our first time using this, so I am using Adobe Acrobat Reader, which to be
that's
clear, I hate, and at home I don't use it, but I just didn't have it on this computer. All right, so as a Rage Blood Vigor, this is what this gives you. Now, this is where for the rubber meets the road, Bob,
Okay.
because you need to know what this does.
Oh, great.
All right, now how you know what this does? I mean, it's like Pathfinder 2.
Okay.
Your character has 12 feats on your sheet. What do they all do? How do you know?
I page this and then I go back and reference it.
Right, but
I have little ticks in my little.
this is where
That's where the
ga-
crunch comes in.
this is where the crunch comes in. I mean, this is nothing different than in someone who's played Pathfinder 2nd Edition. But as a Rage Blood Vigor, you get the Swift Charge power. So already we start off the game with an extra power. All right.
And where do the powers go?
So powers on your sheet, on the back of your character sheet, there's
Oh.
a section for powers.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff on
At will, encounter, daily, utility.
Got it.
This is
But-
where you're going to write the name down.
Yes.
But this is not where you're going to use for power. If you're playing 4E, you're using aids.
But when we played 4th edition, okay, we usually used things like this. So these,
Are they there?
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's in the shop, Bob.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Remember they can't see the
Yeah,
audio
yeah,
mixer,
yeah.
Bob. So these were power cards that came out, and these were things that people put together that basically and you can see here, they have different colored backs. Right. So blue were like your utility powers. Green were your at will powers. Red were your encounter powers. Like gray were like your daily powers. And so in some ways, like I mean, I'm not going to say you have to have these, but if you're playing at the table, you kind of have to have these.
It makes the game so much faster. If you ever notice my little obsession with props when we play, it's from this game. Because not only did it make this game like fast, I feel like it makes all of my gameplays fast.
Right. And so, like, as an example, this is one I took off of a 30th level character. What they ended up actually doing is usually they would print them out in this sort of 3x3 format, and then they would slip them inside of plastic covers, and then they would use dry erase markers to sort of put X's on them when they use them up. In this case, this thing is double-sided. And Tim's character had like 7 of these that were double-sided.
Again, end of the game. But
This is the very, 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 very end of the
Don't
game.
break my brain yet.
Right. But so this is sort of, I think, a much better way, because this gives you a lot of room to write what the powers did, right? And back in the day, you could pull them off of the character builder and just print them out. No problem. There was an option to print your powers. And so this was, I think, a much more compelling way to write it, because when you write it down here, right, this doesn't,
there's no room.
There's no room. It's not going to tell you.
This is for record keeping.
This tells you everything that you need to know about what this power or item did.
And that's the key. Everything. That's it. You don't have to flip through a book.
There's no flipping.
Which is nice.
It just tells you everything that you ever needed to know about that.
Okay.
So in this particular instance, this Rage Blood Vigor gives us a swift charge. Now, again, we wrote this down on our sheet, Rage Blood Vigor.
Yeah.
But it also gives us a new power, which is called Swift Charge, which you can see right here. Remember how the Thane-born Barbarian had that roar of triumph?
So this is a feat?
No.
This is a power.
This is a power.
So your Barbarian feature,
Are you looking the right way? Are you
Feral
looking
Might.
Are you looking at the right place?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Swift charge on the right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's red, so that's an encounter power.
Oh, red is an encounter power.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. And in this case,
Swift charge.
right. So this would be a character power that you would get, and technically, because it is a bonus power.
I've talked about this to Smith offline before. Just when one day you were late coming to Friday, and we went through a lot of this stuff. I like that the flavor text is not only in a different shade, but it's also italic. So you know that this is actually not the mechanics,
And it's separate.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a magic card, which I love.
In Feat 2, I can't tell if this is like the flavor or the ability.
Yes, yes. And again, I cannot stress this enough, especially someone who plays Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering obviously puts its flavor text in italics at the bottom.
Yes.
But it's very clear that just because that this is not part of the pop mechanics.
Yes.
Right? This is just super, super easy to read.
I mean, look at how easy that is to read.
Right. Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Okay. So you can see here, it tells you it's an encounter power, that it has the primal trait. For example, the one above here had the fear trait, right? So very easy.
Again, just like Pathfinder 2, some things key off of that.
What type of action is this? It's a free action.
So you said there was standard,
Yep. Move. Minor.
and then there's free.
There's also
Free.
And then is there like a reaction type thing?
It's called
There's
an
reaction,
it's called an
immediate
immediate
interrupts.
action. Immediate interrupt. There's immediate reaction and immediate interrupt.
yeah.
But they're both use your immediate action.
Okay.
Trigger. Your attack reduces an enemy to 0 hit points. Effect. You charge an enemy.
Oh, so if I kill that one, I can then like sprint towards the next one.
Correct.
What is charge?
Charge is an
just move
action
to
in the
action.
game. It means you get to move and attack.
Oh, and attack?
Yeah.
Oh.
With a bonus to hit.
Wait, and so encounter powers.
Yes. You can
it's
use
a
once.
free-
You can use once a fight.
Ah, dang. That's what I was waiting. I was like, what do you mean?
Now think how cool this is, right? So once a fight, you kill a dude.
Yeah.
And then immediately charge into another dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So sweet.
Now, and I don't know the barbarian class that well. We never had a barbarian, but there may be feats or later things in the barbarian tree that you could take that maybe says you can swift charge every time you kill somebody, and that might be something that you do at higher level, because at low level, it's like, your barbarian gets around, but at high level, your barbarian might be able to like bounce around several times a fight, and charge all over the place. Now, keep in mind, this makes your character, this is a great way for you to kill a monster. And remember, this is the defender power.
That's kind of like I'm still in the fray.
You're getting into somebody's face.
Yeah.
And if they want to, for example, you kill the guy, you charge off and engage that unengaged guy. Now, if he wants to walk around, not only do you do some damage to him, but if he wants to walk around you to go attack your wizard, you get to attack opportunity, and you do the most damage. So,
Your attacks opportunity are scary. In some ways, you don't need Mark.
Right. So, and again, this is very different, right, than this Roar of Triumph ability.
Okay.
Which, if you were a Thane-born, again, there's a flavor
so burst
text here.
5 is 5 squares?
Yes.
Burst square. Now, a couple things. It's close burst 5.
What does close mean?
It means starting in your square.
Okay.
So you would
So
go.
square number 1 is my square.
No, square 0 is your square.
Square 0 is.
Right.
you count
So
5 from
close
you.
burst 1, Bob, would be every square adjacent to you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So close burst, and more important than this is where the game comes in. Close means that this is an ability that is designed for use in close quarters.
Okay.
It does not trigger any attacks of opportunity. Hey, our boy Lazarus Dark is here.
Hey.
Say if one were inclined to make a highly modified version of Pathfinder 2, one would want to look at 4E layout and formatting and the standard to follow if one were so inclined. Is this because Lazarus is doing this PF2 thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yes, Lazarus Dark is making a little tongue-in-cheek remark about his efforts to sort of revamp Pathfinder 2. But yeah, I mean, I again, is it soulless? Kind of. It's kind of soulless.
Yeah, well, that's because this is a book. The soul is in the game.
Right. They're not trying to make this a. It can look.
Wait, don't zoom out.
They didn't
I was
sell
reading
this
that.
for people to sit there and read through like a novel.
Exactly. This is not written like a novel. But let's go back to this other power that you could have had, Bob.
When you was behind door number 2, you could have had this.
This once an encounter, when you kill an enemy, so it's the same trigger, Bob, and it's still a free action. Now, close burst 5 means every enemy within 5 squares of you, you target each enemy in burst. Note,
Okay, so now they're targeted.
right? Effect. There's no roll that says to hit, so this just happens.
This is my free action. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Each enemy takes a -2 penalty to all of their defenses. That would be armor class, fortitude, reflex, and will.
So first I had to hit them.
First, you had to kill somebody.
So I killed the guy.
Yep.
Right.
He goes to 0, and now each enemy
around you.
around me has now a -2 penalty to defense until the end of your next turn. So then I'm going to be able to probably hit another one, but it also helps all my
Yes.
because
All
it's a
your
leader.
allies.
As a leader,
And again, if you look at the flavor text, it's called Roar of Triumph. Your howl of victory shakes your enemies to the core as they know that your bloodthirst is not yet quenched.
I don't know if you know how good this is because we're
good,
so
actually.
used to playing Pathfinder.
Well, it's probably better than Swift Charge, actually.
There's no attack or save there. That just happens.
I know.
Trigger, effect, boom.
And it's better. I think it's better than the Swift Charge.
Well,
But I'm going Defender.
All right,
I'm locked in.
So
That's better though.
and again, you can sort of, kind of, flip that around. You can kind of take different powers and build your character in a different way. So that's the first thing that you get because you chose Rage Blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Swift
But
Charge.
you get another thing from choosing Rage Blood. Okay. You get, in addition, whenever your attack reduces an enemy to 0 hit points. By the way, we already have this power over here.
Yeah. Swift Charge did that. Something like that too.
In addition, whenever your attack reduces an enemy to 0 hit points, note this is not an encounter power.
This is
just an
whenever it
ability.
triggers. Yeah.
Oh, this is just an ability of the Barbarian.
You gain temporary hit points equal to your Constitution modifier.
5 plus your Constitution modifier.
No, it's at 11th level.
Sorry.
And it goes up as you go throughout the tiers. So
okay.
Whenever you kill an enemy,
It's not a lot though, right?
it is not. And again, this is something that I personally think that they were a little, we talk about criticisms of 4E. There are a couple of powers and abilities where I go, this should be more. Now, to be fair, you could trigger this multiple times per fight.
Yeah.
And it does scale. At 11th level, it becomes 5 plus your Constitution modifier, and at 21st level, it becomes 10 plus your Constitution modifier.
Does that scale well? I don't know.
It doesn't scale as well as it probably should.
It sounds low.
And so there are instances, and I will 100% admit to this, there are instances within the game where if like I was making, 4E Derek, like I would probably tweak certain things.
I always liked your con plus level. I thought that was like really nice.
Right.
And it always ended
Now,
up
granted, I mean,
decent.
there's something to be said about like the balance of the game and how that affects it. But yes, I would agree. Now, keep it be fair. This is just like an additional bonus, right? This isn't like your rage.
Now, there are feats that improve that.
Oh, okay.
Right. And again, there are always things.
So that's why they had to keep it low.
Like improved Rage Blood Vigor, you add 5 additional temporary hit points.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Because if there's stuff that's going to improve it, then you can't just push it all the way out.
That's the heroic tier 1.
Yeah.
And,
So,
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
All right. So we have that ability.
so as a barbarian, you also get barbaric agility or barbarian agility.
Sweet.
Okay, so this is technically a class feature that your character gets.
Okay.
So you would technically put this on your character sheet as a class feature,
Got it.
right? And what does this do? When you are not wearing heavy armor, you get a +1 bonus to AC and reflexes.
Sweet. So there is your armor ability is +1, or no, your class is +1. I get a +1 bonus for my class if I don't have heavy armor.
Correct. So if you put on plate mail, you'd lose that. But if
But
you
it said I couldn't even get that. I'm
You're not even trained in it. That is
I'm
actually
trained in
true.
you could take a
hide.
feat to become trained in it.
Right.
Got it. Then I would lose that ability.
So this is basically saying like, barbarians want to be kind of, not wearing heavy
and
armor.
hide armor.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we've got our feral might, right? We chose Rage Blood Vigor.
Yep.
Then this one this is a little confusing because of the way the barbarians work. You get an ability called Rage Strike.
Okay. Sounds awesome.
Powers
Okay.
on the next page.
So I'm going to explain this first, and then I'm going to describe it.
Okay.
In 4th edition, every character class gets at-will powers that they can use every round. These are like cantrips from
Got it.
Pathfinder 2.
At will powers. Okay.
You get encounter powers, which are like focus spells.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get daily powers. And these are like spell slots. Okay? The Barbarians' daily powers are often, they're called rages. And they have different names. Like you might have the rage of the world tree. You might have the rage of the spirit tiger. The rage of the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't know. I'm making that up. But the point is they're different rages and they do different things. Usually what they do is they allow you to make a really big, massive attack. And then hit or miss, it gives you some sort of bonus for the rest of the combat.
Wait, you said, but there was a daily power?
Yes.
So only once per day I could use it?
Right.
Well, eventually
But it
you'll
would
get
help-
up to 4 dailies.
Oh.
But you can't take the same daily power
Can't
twice.
take same daily.
But
But you're going to have different
So it's a
levels of
daily
rages.
power that really only helps me in the encounter.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
to be clear, when we say daily power, they are actually called daily attack powers
Okay.
in every class.
Okay. Every class has one.
Daily powers mean combat.
Okay.
You, as a barbarian, might be raging,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to use another rage power. But if you use another rage power, you lose out on your rage. So Rage Strike lets you convert your other daily powers into damage.
I guess I'm a little confused.
Right.
So rage is an action?
It's not an action.
Okay.
It's a rages are what they call the daily.
You have no rage power.
Okay.
There's no I rage.
Okay.
So here.
That's not used to that yet.
Correct. So here we'll skip ahead
skip
here.
to page 51.
Okay. So we're gonna go here. Well, not 51. So here we go. Level 1, and you notice it's called daily evocations because you're a primal character. Okay. Are there 2 or 3, Smith?
There's 2 right there,
Okay, there's 2 right here. All right.
and there's 2 more on the next page.
There's 2 more on the next page.
I know pages are painful.
Pages are very painful for me because of this horrible thing. Also, I saw GM Scott was talking about Sumatra. That is what I use at home. Okay. But I honestly think it's this mouse. All right. So, Bob.
You want to use my mouse?
Oh, well, no. Oh, I mean, I suppose I could, but
I mean, I'm barely using
okay.
it. I can use this.
At level 1, your character will be able to choose 1 daily evocation.
Okay.
Okay. And you can use this, guess what? Once a day.
Once a day. That's
Once,
right.
once per long rest.
Once per long rest.
Now, here's 2 of them. There's 4 that you can choose from. You get 1 of these. Okay. So let's take a look at Blood Hunt Rage.
Okay.
Your rage surges up from the depths of your pain to bring pain to the wounded. Okay. It's a daily power. It has the primal trait. It has the rage trait, and it has the weapon trait, which basically means it uses your weapon.
Okay.
It is a standard action, so it takes up your main thing.
Got it.
It uses whatever your currently equipped melee weapon is. It targets 1 creature.
Got it.
Then you get to make an attack roll. You must make an attack roll. It's your strength, meaning it's an attack roll using your strength.
My strength modifier.
Like
Yep.
a bow would use like
A bow would use your dexterity
Mhm. So my strength modifier.
versus their armor class.
Okay.
If you
this
hit,
was like a wizard, it might be, intelligence versus reflex.
Okay.
if you hit, you do 3 times your weapon's damage. So if your weapon was a D12, you would roll 3 D12.
So first it's my strength modifier D20 roll.
Yep.
Versus their
Armor class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit or
If you
miss.
hit,
If you hit, you do what this says.
So
you do
3 times my weapon die.
Yep, plus your strength modifier. Okay? If you miss, you do half damage.
Oh.
Okay? Then
Is that a thing? Like a lot of times?
Uh,
or is it like a
on-
barbarian?
on daily.
No, it's on daily powers.
dailies.
Yeah.
Okay.
then the effect, this happens, remember, these are different than hit or miss.
Okay.
You just keep going down like a magic card. You know how
Yeah.
you just go from the top to the bottom?
yep.
So we go, okay, we hit, we did this. We missed, we did this. Effect, this just is what happens. You enter the rage of the blood hunt. Until the rage ends, and rage is, this is part of the rules of rage, they end of the encounter.
Okay.
You gain a bonus to melee damage rolls equal to your constitution modifier. So it's almost like you become like a kineticist. How you now add your strength and your constitution.
So wait. You said reading in order. So I don't enter this rage until after?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Keep
Yep.
going.
Right? Until the rage ends, you gain a bonus to melee damage rolls equal to your constitution modifier if either you or your target is
yeah.
bloodied.
Yeah.
So this rage,
Yeah. It's like a blood rage. Yeah.
you're in the blood, you're in the blood hunt,
Yep.
right? And so what does that mean? It means you want to go find weak people
Yep.
and finish them off.
or be weak.
Or
yourself.
be weak.
Or just be in surging in pain.
Now you said a rage. So I'm raging the second on a counter starts, basically.
There is no rage.
There's no rage.
But you just
You're
said
not
when-
raging until you use his power. And then when you use his power, you go through the target, the attack, the hit.
Got it.
And then you apply the effect.
And so then the counter ends, and then I'm no longer raging.
You got
the
it.
encounter, you stop raging.
Right.
Okay, interesting.
And more importantly,
Huh.
you've run out of Blood Hunt Rage.
Yeah, that effect lasts for the rest of the encounter.
Yeah.
But then you've used it,
Yep.
and it's a daily power, so you don't get to do that, right?
Okay.
Now, you could also have taken the Mace Tail's Rage. All right. You knock your enemy to the ground with a slam like the behemoth's heavy tail, and the rage of the mace tail fills you, refreshing you with every blow of your weapon. Now, this is a different attack. It's still a standard action, but now it is a close burst 1.
So it has to be adjacent, basically.
These are no, it's no. It is close burst 1.
Okay.
Then read the target.
Okay.
Each enemy in the burst you can see.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, Mace Tail is what behemoths are what 4th edition calls dinosaurs. Mace Tail is like the Ankylosaurus in the book. You know, it's the one with like the dinosaur with the big.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So the idea is you basically spin
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Right? Now notice, look what happens. It's strength, but now you're not targeting their armor class. You're targeting their reflex.
Interesting.
Which is probably lower.
Right?
Hypothetically, depending on what monster it is, yeah.
It's
Correct.
also more thematic because you're not really aiming so much as like.
Right. You're not trying to hit them. They're trying to get the hell out the way.
Right.
Now, if you hit them, you'll notice you do less damage. It's only 1 times your weapon die, but you also knock them prone.
Oh, yeah.
So this is an AoE damage knock prone.
Whew. That
Okay.
sounds rough.
If you miss, you do not knock them prone.
Is prone real bad in 4E just like it is in Pathfinder?
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
real
sucks.
it takes your move action stand up. It grants combat advantage, which is
Armor
like
class?
Just like
that's like combat in the 4E. They don't become flat footed. Everybody else gets a +2 to hit them.
Okay.
So it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yep. Effect. So just like the other one, whether you're going to do your big AoE, spin around, do a bunch of damage, then you're going to enter the rage of the Mace Tail Behemoth. This is different than the rage of the Blood Hunt. Until the rage ends, whenever you hit, you gain temp HP equal to your strength modifier.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Huh.
Right? So you can see that these are 2 very different powers, and you could take either of them. And in fact, actually,
Now, is it hard GMing this? Because I assume the player has to constantly tell you, hey, I'm going at your reflex, not like your AC, you know.
Yeah, you just declare that.
Okay.
yeah, you just say, you're like, I'm attacking. I got a 32 versus reflex.
Okay.
I got a 32 versus will. I got
so
a 29 versus.
It's an extra second of looking because usually you're just like the AC is 20. I know that for the rest of the combat. Now you have to kind of jump around.
Sure. I mean, it'd be no different than being like, I'm
Spellcasters,
grappling.
yeah.
So what's their fort defense?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But the game gives you 2 more options to choose from. And this is just your level 1 power.
This is level
And
1.
this is just
And
your
level
daily.
1 just said 3 times my weapon die. I thought that was pretty
Okay.
ridiculous.
All right. This is the Rage Drake's Frenzy.
Okay.
Okay. You slam your weapon into a wounded foe, and the Rage Drake's spirit fills you. You erupt in violence, swinging furiously at a new foe as soon as the last one falls.
The writer they got for this flavors, the guy was paid
So,
well.
so once again, Bob, this is a standard
her.
action. It uses a melee weapon. It only targets 1 creature. It's your strength versus their armor class.
Yep.
But if the target is bloodied, you get an additional +2 bonus to the attack roll.
There we go.
And that's untyped, so stacks with everything. And it does triple weapon damage,
Oh, yeah.
half damage if you miss. Then you enter the rage of the Rage Drake. Until that rage ends, once a round, when you reduce an enemy to 0 hit points, you can make a melee basic attack, basically you get to swing your weapon, as a free action.
Okay, so but when do I get to do that?
Once per round, when you reduce an enemy to 0 hit points, you can make a melee basic attack as a free action.
So next round, you're in a rage.
Yeah.
You kill someone.
Yeah.
That triggers this. So now you get to make another attack.
But so I have to have another enemy that's close by.
Correct.
Yes.
But if you didn't, you could use your other power to charge another guy.
That's
And then use it.
that's what I was wondering. It's like I can't. Why can't you? Oh, because it's still the same round. Would I get 2 attacks if I swift raged?
You couldn't charge over and attack another person, but I think because it's a free action, you might be able to.
If anybody in the chat knows that, I mean, because
Right.
that's what I'm wondering. Like,
It is a free action.
I reduce them to 0, then I can swift rage over to
Yeah, but I
someone
think
else?
you only get 1 response to a certain triggering
there's an
event.
order of operations.
There is an order of operations.
Okay.
But there's another power that you could choose, Swift Panther Rage. Targets 1 creature, strength versus armor class, triple weapon damage, miss for half. Effect: you enter the rage of the Swift Panther. Until the rage ends, you get a +2, which means 2 squares.
Okay.
Bonus to your speed, and you can shift 2 squares as a move action instead of 1. And shift in 4th edition is just like shift from Pathfinder. Oh, sorry, you're right. Step.
Okay. So I don't provoke.
Well, you can go
attacks?
2 squares and not provoke an attack opportunity.
Okay.
So this one makes you more of like a skirmisher.
Interesting. The first one sounded like the most damage dealing. The second one was more of like the leader.
Well, to be fair, there's 3 of them that all do triple weapon damage.
Yeah, but that first one, I thought
that one increases your overall damage for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a toss up in terms of damage. Blood Hunt and Rage's Drake, it's a toss up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because bonus attacks are
I mean,
nice.
it seemed like the leader one would be more towards the AOE prone thing. Like depending on what you were like kind
or
of gearing
defender,
up.
either or.
Yeah. Yeah, it just depends.
If they're down, they can't get up. Or I mean, if they're down, they can't go and attack someone, right?
I mean, yeah, I like that idea. Would you like to try my mouse?
I thought I was changing this. No, apparently that doesn't change anything.
You can try it. It's a plug-in.
Yeah.
I only do USB mouses. Super weird like that.
So then to loop back, you have a power called Rage Strike.
Okay.
And what this lets you do is because when you're in a rage, you get that bonus
No.
effect, right?
No, it's not the mouse.
Like you get like the bonus attack, right? Or the bonus to your damage or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But if you use another daily, you lose that effect and get the new rage instead. Follow me so far?
No, I'm lost again.
Okay.
So
if you blood hunt rage, let's
so
say
I blood hunt rage
let's
is
say
my
you're higher level,
Yes.
and you picked for whatever reason 2 first level dailies.
Okay.
Right. And you picked blood hunt and you picked mace tail.
Yeah.
Right. So you enter blood hunt first, and the effect is you gain bonus to melee damage rolls equal to your Constitution modifier.
Yes.
Right. But then you decide you want to use your other daily power because you want to do the AOE.
Yes.
Right. Well, if you use that one, then what's going to happen is your effect is going to replace your other effect
Yeah, that makes sense.
because you're replacing your rage, right?
Yeah.
So what Rage Strike lets you do is if you just want to convert your other dailies just into more damage while you're raging, you can use Rage Strike, pick a daily that you haven't expended, cross it off, and then instead you attack requirement. You must be rage and have at least one use Barbarian Rage Power, target 1 creature, attack, strength versus AC. You expend your unused Barbarian Rage Power. You deal damage based on the level of the Rage Power you expend.
So here, I got it up on screen.
So one more.
So for example,
Oh, first level is
3 weapons. So for example, let's say you're higher level and you were raging from some higher level power, rage of the Tyrannosaurus. You still have that rage of the mace tail, but you don't want to
I don't need it in this
you don't
fight.
need, but you do want to do triple weapon damage.
Yeah.
So you can cash it in for triple weapon damage. And as you look down, you could, for example, cash in your 9th level power for 5 times weapon damage. And for your 29th level power, you could cash it in for 9 weapon
so that
damage.
first one said 3 weapon damage plus strength.
Yeah.
Or no, 3 weapon damage, plus strength. And then this one also says that, so I could, if I had 2 powers, daily powers, I could cash in the second one and then basically doing 6 weapon dice plus 2x strength. Basically,
No, these are separate things. They're both standard actions.
Oh, I can't. That's right. Because I would have
If you
already
don't want
had
to
to
lose your
use that.
current rage, but you still want to do sick damage,
Now I understand.
you
You're
can
right.
throw away a daily
I've
you don't
already
care
used
about
that one.
and do this instead.
Correct. That one's been used. You're going to have 3 or 4 of these rage powers.
Right.
You may be like, look, this is the last fight of the day.
Okay.
I don't need to conserve these.
pretty
I
cool.
want to convert them all into damage. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just some versatility.
Right.
That which is nice. Yeah.
By the way, somebody in Frostjack and thing says I can hold. I can try holding my button and just scrolling. So that does seem to work, even if it is a little bit thing. But Adobe Acrobat is horrible and should never be used by anyone.
What do they know about PDFs?
Right. Literally, it's horrible. But granted, I hate PDFs and I've ranted about them many, many times.
So I put this in my daily power.
It is a daily power.
So what was that first one? That was the big one. That's what I want.
Oh. Your actual daily evocation. Which one did you
I
want? You
don't know.
wanted
It's
Blood Hunt Rage?
Yeah, blood hunt.
Oh,
rage.
see, look, I changed how many things the thing scrolls, and it works on this PDF, but not on the other one.
That's awesome.
Blood hunt rage. Let's go.
Rage of the Blood Hunt.
Now you skipped a little bit ahead. You also have to
sorry.
pick your at-wills and encounters.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Also, we haven't picked your race yet because we're
Right.
getting really
Dwarf.
deep into the woods.
Dwarf.
All right. Well, that was easy.
That's in PHP 1.
All right. So race is dwarf.
Yeah.
We also still have to pick your character ability score modifiers.
Right.
Well, it's going to be max in
after
strength,
that.
second in con. Do we do an array?
Yes.
Yeah. What? Jesus Christ.
You get to actually choose which array you want to use.
Okay.
There's 3 arrays.
I want the one that gives me the biggest in 2 categories.
I think that's actually one of the options.
I was guessing.
Let's see.
So the standard array is 16, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10.
You want the dual specialist scores. 16, 16, 12, 11, 11, 8. Gives you 2 good scores with 1 weakness.
16, 16, 12, 11, 8? Missing one.
16, 16, 12, 11, 11.
11,
8.
11. Okay.
So
So I got punt intelligence.
Now, you could also do the specialist, which gives you that sick 18.
What's it do?
18, 14, 11, 10, 10, 8. Great in one area, but you have a significant weakness.
When do you get the next ability modifier? 5?
4?
4? That's not too bad.
I don't actually remember.
Let me see. You get a couple in this game, actually. You see.
And part of me wants to go all in on strength, but I kind of like the con.
That's the
high.
decision you're going to make. Yeah, level 4, you get +1 to 2. So, no, it's not like Pathfinder. You get like +2. It's
And then
+1.
at level 11 and 21, you get +1 to all.
Yeah. So 4, 8, 11, big one. 14, 18,
21.
big one. Or sorry,
Okay.
no more. 21,
Okay.
big one.
I'm okay with then. I'm going to take that one, the duelist one, the 16, 16, 12, 11, 11. So 16, 16 if you're going straight down, Derek.
Yep.
16, 16, 11, 8, 11, 12.
Okay. 16, 16. Now you realize already off the bat why that is somewhat problematic.
Yeah, you see what you're doing there?
What am I doing?
So now you have put your 2 highest scores
In my fort.
into strength and con.
Yeah.
So
your defenses are going to suck.
You're going to suffer. You're going to.
This is part of the choices you have to make.
Right.
Now,
What were your other stats, Bob?
16, 16, 11, 8, 11, 12.
That doesn't mean anything to me, Bob.
11?
You got to use words.
You're going straight down. 11?
Why don't you just say your dexterity is 11?
Dexterity 11, intelligence 8, 11 wisdom, 12 charisma. I said if you were going straight down, and I was listing them.
So
you went with dwarf,
Dwarf.
so you get +2 to your constitution,
Oh, I do get a +2?
Yep.
Maybe I
And you
freaking
get a-
shift that around then.
and you get +2 to your wisdom.
Huh.
Well,
What's that super heavy one again?
Super heavy one.
The one that goes
Oh, the
all in on one?
specialist?
Yeah.
18,
Let's do that one instead. If I'm going to get, it was 18, 14.
18, 14. Yep. Sounds right. 18, 14, 11, 10, 10, 8.
but you don't get a 16 then. So just FYI.
That's fine.
All right.
10.
So you're doing that instead,
Yeah, so 18 in strength, 14 con,
which is now a 16.
which will be a 16.
Right.
Yep.
And then 10 dex, 8 intelligence, 10 wisdom, 11 charisma.
Which will be a 12.
Right.
That's right.
Your size is medium.
Sweet.
Your speed is 5 squares.
Oh, that's 25.
That's
I
25 feet.
got to think
Yeah.
of it differently.
You have low light vision.
Low light senses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know common and dwarven.
Where's languages at?
Right here, language is known.
Yeah.
They put a lot of space down there.
Races give you skill bonuses. So you get +2 to dungeoneering and +2 to endurance.
Races give you. Where do you put that in miscellaneous, or you just put it
Miscellaneous.
in bonus?
Miscellaneous is fine.
So you said where's it? Dungeoneering.
Yep.
Okay. And what was the other one?
Endurance.
Sweet.
Yeah, good one. You have cast iron stomach. You get +5 ratio bonus to saving throws against poison. I think there's a place somewhere for saving throws on here.
There's conditional bonuses. You said I thought you said there was no saving throws. Oh, there it is. Saving
There are
throws right
saving
there.
throws. They're just
It's
not
under
what
the
you think
HP
they are.
and stuff.
Yeah, saving throw-
What did you say it was? Plus
+5 to poison.
poison saving throws.
Saving throws are flat checks.
So because this is a minor complaint that I have about the game, because they wanted to keep using all the terms that D&D used.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, well, saving throw has been in Dungeons & Dragons since the beginning of the game, so we got to keep using that term. When you think of saving throw in 4th edition D&D, think flat check, DC 15, persistent damage.
Yep, 100%.
Flat check. DC.
From, you know what I'm talking about? You know, Pathfinder 2.
Yep, yeah.
Except it's 10.
Except it's 10.
Yeah, the
Flat check
DC is 10.
Oh.
And so dwarves with a +5 poison bonus is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Right. So that means, for example, if your character was taking,
5 or higher.
if your character was taking ongoing poison damage,
That had save.
that would have ongoing would mean it did have a save.
No, I'm saying powers will specifically say, save the end.
So in Pathfinder 2, you might catch somebody on fire, you might make them bleed, right? And they take a couple points of damage. Then you make a DC 15 check. If they pass, great. In this, it's the same thing. It's just DC 10.
Okay.
But because you're a dwarf, you get a +5 bonus to that. So you basically pass on a 5 or higher.
Love it. I got that steel stomach.
Yep.
I'm ready.
You also have Dwarven Resilience. You can use your second wind as a minor action instead of a standard action.
So that's just something you just got a race feature, right?
That's a race feature. Yep.
So you said second wind.
It's called Dwarven Resilience.
Is minor.
Second wind is
action.
minor.
Okay.
You have Dwarven Weapon Proficiency. You gain proficiency with the Throwing Hammer and the Warhammer. Proficiency in this game is binary, right? You either are proficient or you're not.
Where are you putting that at?
Dwarf weapon proficiency.
Yep.
But where does it go? Oh, just on the race features? Dwarf, weapon.
But what's cool about that is now you have a ranged option.
Remember, your barbarian wasn't ranged.
Oh.
Right. And I should note the way that proficiency works in this game is when you attack with a weapon, okay, you're going to add half your level because you always add half your level.
Okay.
Then you're going to add an ability modifier. For example, your powers all stipulated that you added strength.
Yep.
Then if it's a weapon and it has the weapon keyword in the power, you get to use your weapon. And if you use a weapon and you're proficient with it, weapons will either give a +2 or a +3 bonus to their attack roll.
So it didn't say any of that in that raging thing,
No,
right?
That has nothing to do with
built
rage.
into the mechanics.
Has to do with like a long sword.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be my strength modifier.
Well, this is why they have what's called the attack workspace.
Oh.
It's so that you can figure this out. And you'll notice it's broken down by abilities. So, for example, let's use strength,
Okay.
right? Which is your ability. Your half your level rounded down is 0,
So strength.
right? Your ability modifier is a 4. Your class doesn't give you anything here. Proficiency, if you were, say, using a greatsword, would be +3. You don't have any feat bonus, so it's 0. You don't have any enhancement or enchantment bonus because your weapon's not +1 or +2 or +3. And you don't have any miscellaneous bonus, so it's 0.
Okay.
So your attack bonus with a long greatsword would be +7.
Okay, that's what I got too.
But there are weapons in the game like an axe, which do more damage, but they have a +2 to hit instead of a +3 to hit.
The proficiency?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now,
But it says that in the weapon.
yes.
When you choose your weapons, the equipment chapter, it has a nice table.
Okay.
Now, I will just add as another critique against 4th edition, you do so much cool stuff when you hit. Like, oh, I hit him, and I knocked him prone, and I buffed all my allies, and I gave everybody a birthday cake. So it's really, really advised to take a weapon that is +3 to hit
Why?
because you want to hit more often.
Oh, because you can do so. So this is like you want to crit more because
It's
everything
kinda
happens when
like-
you crit.
Yes, it's
Yep,
it's
okay.
kind of the same problem.
All that being said, remember, it's different than Pathfinder 2. So it's half as much. It's still very important, but if you want to give up a point here and there for something else, it's not going to bust your character.
Got it.
But
It's general guidelines, though, that
Yep.
the cool stuff happens when you hit.
right, the cool stuff happens when you hit, and you want to hit. So having a high attack bonus is probably pretty good.
Right.
It's fun stuff happens.
Me personally, I would never be caught dead as a dwarf using a sword, but
I mean, I don't know.
Brenner used a sword.
it's Brenner.
I usually use hammers or axes. That's usually my go-to for
Right.
dwarves.
And I think, pretty sure that hammers and axes are both +2. But anyways, I digress. So that is what you get for being a dwarf.
Also, you get encumbered speed.
Oh, yes.
You move at your normal speed, even when it would normally be reduced by armor or a heavy load.
Giggity.
Yep.
So, but I'm going to be doing hide, I assume. So,
Which I think still has a -1 penalty to speed.
Yeah, but
so I get to ignore it.
if you're carrying a lot of shit.
You said I get to ignore it. If any type of armor.
You remove your normal speed.
So I just put 0 then for armor, then technically.
Yep,
Yep.
pretty much. Yep.
And
It
then,
will not affect you.
cool.
Stand your ground. When an effect forces you to move through a
yes, of
pull,
course.
push, or a slide, you can move 1 square less than the effect specifies. This means an effect that normally pulls, pushes, or slides a target 1 square does not force you to move unless you want to.
I like the idea of being the pole. I've always wanted to do that in Pathfinder, and I could never do it. I was so upset.
Right. So basically, this is kind of like the fighter's bravery ability from Pathfinder 2, right? Like if they're frightened 1 less.
Yeah.
So if you get pushed 3, you only push 2.
Yeah,
If you get pushed 1, you're pushed 0.
sweet.
So
In addition, when an attack would knock you prone, you can immediately make a saving throw to avoid falling prone.
Wow. What's the saving throw? Just 10?
10.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have a 50% chance of
That's huge.
of ignoring being knocked prone.
That part alone is huge.
Yeah.
So that's what you get for being a dwarf. But like Pathfinder 2, they also have a lot of dwarf feats in the book. And some of those feats can give you like dwarf powers and stuff like that.
Now, to be clear, unlike Pathfinder 2, you don't get ancestry feats, skill feats, general
You're
feats,
giving up something.
class feats. You just have one pool of feats that you
Okay.
get from.
I do like how Pathfinder 2 broke out their feats.
I do like that
was
about Pathfinder 2 as well, because it always felt like I want to take the cool dwarven things, but I also want to take things that are going to help my class. And so I like that Pathfinder 2 was basically like, it didn't make you have to like choose between your babies, you know, like you could have your ancestry feats and you could have this. I thought that was pretty clever.
4E got almost there with what they did with utility powers, but they didn't do enough with the feats in that front.
All right, Bob. So to finish up, we need to.
So we got your attributes picked.
So nothing in the class said anything about increasing my fort, reflex, or will. So that's all
it
Your
does.
class gave you +2 fort.
Remember, you're going to the first.
+2 fort.
Right. Bonus to defense is +2 to fort.
Okay.
So that
the
means
other ones get 0.
Yeah, so your class gives you a 2 to fort, but it gives you a 0 to reflex, to will, and to AC. Okay?
So now we got to finish choosing your powers.
Man, my reflex is rough.
Also, Bob, from the class skill list below, you need to choose 3 trained skills at first level. So you can pick acrobatics, athletics, endurance, heal,
athletics.
heal, intimidate, nature, or perception.
So I become trained.
Yep. So you basically pick 3 of these. I believe that's modified by your intelligence.
I feel like. So my intelligence is -1.
I could be wrong.
Because I want to be trained in athletics and dungeoneering.
Well, the good news is you can be.
Or endurance.
Yep,
It
so-
depends if I get 2 or 3.
Right. Not in the rules compendium?
Not modified by intelligent,
somewhere
according to
else.
Frostjack.
Yeah.
Not modified by intelligence. All right, well,
Then
there you
I'll
go.
do endurance and dungeoneering, so I go super heavy in those.
Classic Bob. Double down on everything I'm good at.
That's right. So athletics is my strength modifier.
Yep. Oh, you
But-
said
and then-
athletics.
And then trained is me a +5, so I have a 9. Oh, no.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Sorry, no. So sorry.
Yeah,
No,
you're
it's
right.
your-
You're absolutely right, Bob.
No, it says ability modifier plus half level. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. And then dungeoneering is wisdom,
Which is
0.
Is it? No, your wisdom's 12.
I thought you said my charisma was 12. Sorry.
So you should have a +2 from your dwarven bonus for dungeoneering.
He
No,
does.
I have that.
Okay.
Sorry, I put the 2 in the charisma, not to wisdom when you said it from the dwarf thing. That's my fault. Okay,
Got it.
so I got it to my wisdom, not my
Yep.
not to my charisma. Okay, so then so that is actually 2 or a 1, sorry.
Yep.
And
So you have
then
a 1 plus a 5 plus a
endurance
2,
is
so it's
3.
8. And then your endurance is a 3 plus a 5 plus a 2. So your endurance is 10.
Sweet.
Now, keep in mind, the other ones of these still get to add your ability modifier.
Correct. I don't get the plus.
You just don't
train.
get the plus train, which is a nice bonus. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong.
Now it's different than Pathfinder, right? Like you're either trained or you're not,
Okay.
and the train is a stack bonus. So the gap between being trained and not trained is substantially less than the way it is in Pathfinder. Typically, if you're making a check with an untrained skill, it's not going to be a great day for you, but it's not impossible.
Yeah. This seems reasonable.
Also, we did forget about this power down here.
What? Oh,
Rampage.
sounds sweet.
Yeah, but we didn't finish the powers. We just moved on
We-
the skills for some
you
reason.
Which one's this? This is at will?
No, because we started talking about daily powers.
Yeah.
What is
Because
this, utility?
he got the rage strike as a class
we had to
feature,
flip
and we had to flip
forward.
forward to this.
Okay.
So this is Rampage.
Okay.
This is a class feature. Okay, and it wrote that.
Rampage.
Okay.
Actually, you don't have Rage Strike yet.
And it lets me not be blocked by 2 or more enemies. Oh, is that 1 or more? 3 or more enemies? What's
No.
Rampage and Magic?
Rampage and Magic is you get Rampage X. You add +X to creature's power and toughness for each additional blocker beyond the first.
I knew it was some of blockers. Yeah.
Barbarians are kind of nuts.
So once per round,
Okay.
when you score a critical hit,
And this is just nat 20.
nat
right?
20,
Okay.
with a Barbarian attack power, you can immediately make a melee basic attack as a free action. You do not have to attack the same target that
Wait
you
a
scored a
second.
critical hit against.
Barbarian attack power.
Yes,
That was that. That is that right now it's my daily.
correct. It will also be all of your powers.
All your powers.
Oh, swift charge, same thing. Because I go and attack. So I went and attacked and I crit.
The only example of that is if you make a melee basic attack. That is not a Barbarian attack power.
So if I use swift charge, that is
A melee
Actually,
basic attack.
That is basic.
really?
Because that's a feature that has you use a basic power.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to have to be a Barbarian at will, Barbarian encounter, Barbarian daily.
and
so
it'll
if
say
you
in my
look,
traits barbarian.
They will
right?
say up here, Barbarian attack.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Exactly. So that means that your character, let's take a look real quick here before we even get to any of the powers. You have Rage, Blood, Vigor.
Yep.
So when you drop an enemy to 0 hit points, you can swift charge and go. So you kill an enemy, you can rush over to another enemy and attack them.
Yep.
You can also, when you score a critical hit, you can make an immediate attack for free.
From someone probably right next to me too.
Correct. Additionally, when you God, I don't even. We're already so far away here. When
Don't have
you
blood hunt rage.
when you reduce somebody's 0 hit points, you also get temporary hit points. So if you kill an enemy, they go to 0. You get temporary hit points. Then you get to charge over and engage a fresh foe.
Yeah.
When you
That's-
crit,
This is just showing up to play the class.
and when you crit, you get to make an extra attack immediately
But
following
also,
up.
if I reduce them to 0, I can use my. Oh, you said without power. So I was like, and then I can use my power to let me basically get a bonus to other ones I hit until the next round.
Sure. Yeah. These are just your features.
Yeah.
You just get these.
Yeah.
All right, now we have to finish taking your powers.
And we still have to do hit points.
Oh, that was easy.
Oh.
That was like automatic. I thought you just did that, but
No, I didn't do that.
all right. Hit points is 15 plus your con score.
So 15 plus my con score.
Yep.
So I have 31.
31 hit points.
Okay, so bloodied is half. So
No,
15.
That would be a good introduction for us, Jack.
7,
7.
and then
You
you're
said 8.
and
was
then
my
you get
surges per day. No, 7.
No,
I think
8.
it was 1 less than the fighter, which was 9.
Right, which is 8
Yeah, I wrote that.
plus your con modifier.
Plus my con modifier.
Yes.
So 3, so 11.
You have 11
Oh.
surges a day.
Sweet.
So 11 times a day you can heal yourself for 7 hit points.
Okay.
Keep in mind that basically 4 surges will take you from nothing, 0,
Yeah.
basically to your full.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a wonkiness because of the rounding down.
Rounding, yeah.
But that's basically what you have. So the last thing that you need to do to make a character, technically you have to pick equipment and stuff like that, but we're not going to bother with that. We kind of talked about the differences in equipment anyways, is your character starts off with 2 at-will powers. These are the green
get 2.
at-wills. You get 2 of these, and you will have these for most of the game. Now, to be fair, in the game, you're eventually going to end up with 4 daily attack powers a day and 4 encounter attack powers a day, which means that, per fight.
Okay.
So you're going to have 4 encounter spells, 4 daily spells, a bunch of other utility spells,
Magic items.
magic items. These are like cantrips. You're probably going to use them a lot when you're first starting off. But once you have,
Big boys.
once you have a bunch of slots and a bunch of other
You're going to
powers,
use them a lot less. Than
you're going to be
Paragon.
using them a lot less.
At will, I can use over and over again.
Infinite times per day.
Okay.
Yes.
It just
That being
takes
said,
a standard
occasionally some
action?
are
It
really
depends.
It'll tell me.
It'll tell you.
Okay.
So let's start with what you get.
Yeah.
So
You zoom in on this.
yeah. So you're going to pick first option
There we go.
is called the Devastating Strike.
Okay. Sweet.
All right, there we go. Strike with awesome power, more consumed with offense than defense.
Sounds just like me.
It's an at will, which tells you how often you can use it. Green, which means at will. Again, it has primal and weapon.
There's
it's a
the
standard action.
There we go. Okay.
Melee weapon. Requirement: you must be wielding a 2-handed weapon.
They have like the maul and stuff in this?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
You target one creature. You make strength versus armor class.
Yep.
If you hit, you do your weapon damage plus a D8 plus your strength modifier.
nice.
So my weapon damage dice.
Yep.
Or weapon damage.
Yeah. So like, let's say it does D12.
Okay. So D12 plus a D8.
Right.
Yep.
Plus your strength modifier.
Plus 4.
Plus 4.
In this case.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, in effect, whether you hit or miss, until the start of your next turn, any attackers get a +2 bonus to attack rolls against you.
Oh, so this is like
Kind of like Reckless Strike.
reckless attack.
But notice, if you are raging, the attackers don't get this bonus.
Oh. So this is something you do after.
Well, no, I mean, it's an at will,
Yeah,
but
you can decide when to
basically,
use it, yeah.
basically you can decide when to use it.
When
but
does that end? Until I'm raging again? Until the start of your next turn. Got it. Okay.
Oh, I figured it out. All right.
And also, I just want to stress, like, getting the bonus damage is pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So one of the things that you'll find as a striker, which is your role, you're going to have a bunch of different things that, like, everybody else gets powers just like these. But theirs is just going to say 1 weapon plus strength modifier. Yours says 1 weapon plus D8. A rogue's might say 1 weapon plus dex. Well, that's why, but they're a striker because they have sneak attack.
Yeah.
And basically, what do? When they sneak attack, they add an extra D6 of damage. So this is just you, but you don't have to be flanking or anything like that.
Yeah,
You
that's nice.
you just crush. Now, the downside,
So you would say
the reason why this is balanced is because they get a bonus to hit you.
Right.
What's the name of this tech? Something.
This is called Devastating Strike.
So you're like, all right, I'm a devastating strike this guy,
Yep.
and that keys you in and know
and
that
then
I'm doing
you,
this.
as a player, would technically just go through this all the way down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just
Sounds
follow
good.
each
It's
step.
just a procedure.
Yep. Or, now you get 2 of these. You could also
how
take,
many are there to pick from?
I think-
A whole bunch.
I don't know.
You get 2, and there's 4.
Sweet. Okay. Good.
Now,
sweet.
I do want to point out, like, there's a little bit of like inverted kind of tankiness to that power because you're incentivizing Derek to wail on you if you use it outside of rage.
Right. Let's say
That's
you're
right.
not raging. You attack. You do a bunch of damage. You're a striker. You're a damage dealer. And I go, man, I could attack you. I get a big bonus. Because remember, if I miss, it's D20.
Yeah.
If I miss, my
just a
monsters
little
do.
bit. Just a little bit.
I mean, imagine, so imagine that scenario where, an enemy's like, you're like, damn, I kind of want to attack. I kind of want to take this guy.
Yeah. So you sort of like are teasing them.
It's almost like
Yeah, 'cause you're like, come here, Derek,
it's
come
almost like an anti-mark.
Yeah, it's anti-mark.
It's an anti-mark.
Yeah. Okay.
No, an inverse mark.
Inverted mark.
Inverted mark. Okay.
Right.
So
But,
another one.
you're badass. You can take it.
Yeah.
So another one you can take is the Howling Strike. With blood's freezing scream, you throw yourself into the fray. Again, standard action, melee weapon, has to be using a 2-handed weapon, targets a creature, strength versus AC. If you hit, doesn't do quite as much damage.
Yes. Just damage.
Now,
dice
this
less.
is where some of the rubber meets the road. Because remember, we were just talking about your power. Do you remember
Yeah.
your power?
Which one?
The one that says that if you kill an enemy,
Yep.
you can charge
Yeah.
another enemy.
That's swift charge. Yeah.
That's called swift charge.
Remember your question about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, can you use that as part of
Now notice,
Rampage?
Howling Strike is a barbarian attack. So it has that barbarian keyword.
Yes.
Look at the special on Howling Strike.
When charging, you can use this power in place of a melee basic attack. Oh, if you're raging, you can move 2 extra squares. So now I can use my swift rage
Yep.
to charge.
Yep.
Yeah.
But siphon
Instead of-
in the howling
You got it.
strike, which triggers that other thing.
You got it.
Rampage. Boom.
Right. So, so what you could do is kill an enemy, right? Reduce them to 0 hit points with your attack power.
Yeah.
That
It's just at will.
That triggers. Then you rage. Then you rampage. Then you rage blood. You fly across the battlefield. You, instead of doing a charge, you use a Howling Strike.
Yep.
You get to actually move a little bit further. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're raging, you get to move 2 extra squares. But that's about. And then you hit and you land the Howling Strike on that enemy. You crit that enemy.
Oh.
You then get another free action to make a 3rd
Yeah.
extra attack.
Because this was a barbarian attack.
Because this was a
Now-
barbarian
Rampage.
attack.
And the swift rage is an encounter price. So I really can only use that once.
Correct. But this is an at
But
will.
you would never not use howling strike
Pretty
with
much.
the swift rage or swift charge.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
It's just
in
an
fact,
upgrade.
you would never not use Howling Strike on any charge, basically.
I like Gabriel. No open trade on the charge. Amazing.
All right.
So this
So-
is on the next page.
So the next one we get is called the Pressing Strike.
Okay.
You push through lesser foes, moving through the lines of battle at will. Note, this has an effect before the attack.
Right. So this happens first.
So again, we just start at
Order
the
of
top and we just go
operations.
down,
Okay.
right? Standard action, you have to be wielding a melee weapon. Note, this one does not seem to care whether you're using a two-handed weapon or a one-handed
I guess
weapon.
you have a shield if you want.
Before the attack, shift 2 squares. You can move through an enemy's space during this shift, but you can't end there.
So why would you want to do that?
Because you could just break through an enemy's line and get behind them.
So,
if let's say there's...
but I have to trigger it by attack. Wait, where's the trigger?
Okay.
No.
Let's say the fight
there is no
starts.
trigger.
The trigger is I'm making an attack.
Right.
Make an attack.
The attack is a melee
So
weapon.
I still have to be like in front of them.
You still have to be
first.
next to them.
Let's say the fight, your round starts,
Yeah.
and you're based up, and there's 2 soldiers, right? And it's a 10-foot hallway, and behind the soldiers there is artillery, which is doing heavy damage to your back line.
Yeah.
Right? These soldiers have high hit points, high armor. They're annoying, and they're in your way. With Pressing Strike, you can literally walk through their line,
Get behind
Well,
them.
get behind them.
without provoking any attacks.
Without provoking attack opportunity because
it's a
they're
shift.
shifts.
But then I still have to strike that guy, at
No,
least this turn.
You have to target one creature.
The target happens after the effect.
Correct. Hypothetically, the artillery, though, is farther away.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
So I'm probably still going to be making the strike, but now I'm on the other side of the
Right,
line.
which also might mean you're not flanking for your rogue.
It could be.
Right.
What's flanking doing?
+2 to attack.
Oh, great. So that's already incorporated. And then also, they can't go back around me unless they're going to
Because
invoke
they
an attack.
provoke attack opportunities
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
And if you do get lucky and you do crit and you happen to kill the soldier, then you can swift charge into the artillery.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then the swift charge, charging away from that other guy, he could hit me in that
He could.
scenario.
This is true.
Okay.
So if you hit, you do weapon plus. Now notice this one doesn't get the bonus damage.
Yeah.
Because it's doing a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you can push the target 1 square. So if you hit that guy, like they have that line of battle, the shield wall formation, Bob.
Yeah.
You literally shift to the other side of their shield
And
wall
push them back.
and then push one guy out of the formation.
It's a really cool power.
But because you're still a striker, if you're raging, this does do an extra D6 points of damage.
Sweet.
And then the last one is called Recuperating Strike. Nothing restores your will to fight more than slamming your weapon into a foe. Each crushing swing gives you more will to press on. We're back to needing a
I'm
two-handed
already
weapon.
excited. I don't know what this does
We're
yet.
back to needing a two-handed weapon. We target a creature. If we hit with strength versus armor class, we do 1 weapon plus strength modifier, and we gain temporary hit points equal to our con modifier.
There we go.
If we're raging, the number of temporary hit points we gain is 5 plus our constitution.
Wasn't as exciting as I thought. But
But think about it. This
it
is the
does-
thing you're asking for. You know how you're like, 10 hit points?
But now I'm getting double up.
This is an at will, though, remember?
Yeah.
So you're just like, bump,
So
every
this
round
is
you can be getting
kind
10
of
hit
like your
points.
kineticist.
Yes.
Where if you use this power, you'll just and hit, you're going to have a
And so
buffer.
there's no downside of this to use versus a basic attack.
You would never use a
never use
basic attack.
Is that a thing in this game?
Yeah, it
never
is.
use basic attack.
But there are some, basically, if you have to do a basic attack, it's because like something went terribly wrong.
Well, basic attacks are for attacks of opportunity
Yeah.
and for charges.
Yeah, attacks of opportunity, charges.
All right, well, I want this one.
All right. Now,
This
you can
one's
already see,
called-
though, this is called Recuperating Strike. Now, you're a high con defender barbarian. I don't think this is a bad option.
Right.
But by the way, Bob, I
I want the
cannot stress
health
this enough.
because if I'm
By the way,
going-
Bob, these powers are the worst ones in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Because these are your at wills.
There was something
Whatever
later, I
one that
think, that
was.
Smith showed me where, like, if I died, I still would be attacking them or something. It was, like, wild. It was,
Okay.
like, a late game power. It was
So
something crazy.
this is Recuperating Strike. So you want
I want that one.
You want to pick that one up.
I
So,
don't want the one
So on your
before it.
character sheet, we would pick up Recuperating Strike. Then you said you weren't interested in the
one of
pressing
Yeah,
strike.
I mean, I like it a lot. I just, I can't, I got to take 2.
Do you
I
want
can't take
Howling
3.
Strike so you could replace your charge?
Yeah, that's the one I want.
Yeah,
The one that replaces the charge is the one I want.
I got it. That was the Howling Strike.
Yeah.
Okay. Now again, Bob,
But that one, that pressing one is really interesting. That would be the one where I'd have to really know what's going on with my party makeup. Like if I know that that's something that I should be doing, like we need you to get through because we don't have that ability.
That's
That's the one where I got to take it.
When we talk about differences between tactics, between like Pathfinder and this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is really playing with what is going on.
Yeah, like I'm building mine in a vacuum and single-mindedly.
yeah, so like
not building
so
with a
here
party
I will
makeup.
give you the definitive example of combat and tactics in 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Okay?
Okay.
So in the final fight of the early Paragon, so the party was like level 12 or 13. Okay, they are fighting this troll king. Okay,
Dwarf fighter.
they are fighting this troll king. So big hit points, a lot of damage, tons of regeneration. Right, he's a troll. The wizard casts a wall of fire. which fills 6 or 8 squares with fire, which does fire damage every round.
Turn off the regeneration.
Okay, turns off the regenerate. Well, that's a troll thing, right?
Yeah.
If he takes fire damage or acid, he does not regenerate. But he's in the wheel, or he's in the wall. Another character, okay, the rogue comes in, uses a power on the boss monster that does damage to it, and pushes the monster into the firewall. Yeah. Then the dwarf fighter moves up right next to the wall of fire, next to the troll king who's in the wall of fire, and hits him with a daily power called immobilizing strike, which makes that can't move unless you can push the dwarf back.
Okay.
All right. Now, everybody in the game, kind of like how in Pathfinder you have grapple, trip. Everybody has an ability. It's not really on your sheet, but it's kind of on your sheet. You have an ability called shove.
Yeah.
And you make a strength check, and if you succeed, you push the target 1 square, which the Troll King had. Everybody has it. Dwarves can't be pushed 1 square.
That's right.
That meant that the Troll King could not push the dwarf, which meant that the Dwarf King was immobilized forever
in the fire,
in the firewall, until it died. So that was an example of where you had a controller, a striker, and a defender combining so that they could alpha strike and take out a boss. And and that's without even getting into whatever Aaron's character was doing.
Buffing.
So, now, is everybody going to play at that level? No. When I was playing with Rich and Tim and Aaron and Ross, and were they? Yes.
Yeah. Well, those guys are all dated.
Yes. I mean, I'm not trying to say that this is like a super cerebral game, but you could play this game and just be like, "Rawr." And you know what? And you could totally ignore.
Probably have a lot of fun.
You could probably have a lot of fun, and you could totally ignore all the subtle movement and shifting and pushing and pulling. But if you're
missing something, though.
But you would be missing something. I think
especially because D&D is a combat heavy game, and then 4E seems to be even more tactical.
So again, you should take these books home with you. Just don't lose them. I love these books. These are my favorite books.
I don't need to take them home yet.
Okay. No, these tell you.
Look, if you think I have time to read that, I have a stack of books to read. I'm still trying to read
These books are amazing.
If
you want to learn about game design, you should read these books. They're not very big.
Okay.
And they talk about how, D&D is a heavy combat game.
Yeah.
So what if we took a minute and made combat good?
Yeah, and that's what if your game focused on something, make that aspect really good and heavily focus on it.
Yeah.
We did get a $5 super chat.
Yeah.
Or, it's not dollars, but been reading the 4E
Draconomicon.
And they even use social roles for them. Diplomat, Tyrant, etc. Love this system. Interesting.
Oh, the metallic one. Okay, yeah. Those are actually kind of rare books.
Yeah, they're super hard to get.
They're super hard to get.
Same thing with Planes Above and Planes Below. One of them's like $200.
So, Bob, the last thing that your character needs to do is pick your encounter power.
I thought it was Swift Charge.
That's just you get for free.
Yeah, it's just
that's not a power. It's not a real power. Let me rephrase it.
Oh,
you get an attack encounter power.
Okay.
Now, unlike your daily, this is one that you can use every fight,
but only once in a fight.
And again, we have 4 options. Okay. By the way, this is just with the basic class. If you include the expansions, the primal power, you probably have 7 or 8 choices just for level 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So our first option is called Avalanche Strike. All right. Now, again, you drop your guard and put all of your strength into one overhead swing.
Sweet.
Now, this is our first instance where we're going to see a slight difference here. Again, it's encounter, melee weapon, strength versus AC. Nothing that is unusual to us.
Okay.
And if we hit, it does triple weapon damage.
Yeah.
If we have the Rage Blood Figure class feature.
When you have it or when it's activated?
When you have it.
Okay, you just have to have it on your character sheet.
Yep.
Okay.
You do extra damage equal to your con modifier.
Oh, sweet. So I'm doing extra +3. Sweet.
Okay.
This is an example of the carrot design.
This is the carrot design. For example, if you were the other barbarian, the Thaneborn.
If you're going in this route.
If you were a Thaneborn barbarian, you could totally take Avalanche Strike.
You just don't get the +3.
You just wouldn't get the Constitution bonus damage. Yeah. But obviously, this is also kind of like, high risk, high reward. All enemies get +4 to hit you. But think about it, Bob.
Woof.
Your daily powers, we're doing triple weapon damage.
This is an encounter that does triple.
This is an encounter power that does triple weapon damage. You can use this every fight.
That's
every
sick.
Encounter.
Okay? Next one, Bloodletting. Your powerful attack.
I get to pick one of these.
You get to pick one of these. Okay. Your powerful attack is meant to finish off a foe. Now, this is one creature, strength, double weapon damage.
Strength. Okay.
If the target's bloodied, it deals extra damage equal to your con modifier.
Just straight up.
Okay.
So this is like this power, but it doesn't
doesn't do as much.
but it also doesn't give them +4 to hit you.
And one less weapon dice.
Yeah, and it's one less weapon dice, but it doesn't have that +4 to hit downside.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Okay, and obviously encourages you to attack a bloodied foe.
Yeah.
Great Cleave, standard action.
I like this one.
Close burst 1, so that's every square around you. Target every enemy in that burst that you can see. You do strength versus armor class. You hit for 1 weapon damage plus your strength modifier, plus you get a bonus damage for every enemy that's adjacent to you.
Oh, so the more that are surrounding you.
So if you had 6 enemies surrounding you, you would do 1 weapon plus strength plus 6.
Okay.
Okay?
That's pretty nice.
Now, another thing to realize is this doesn't have to scale. And what I'm trying to say is this. Throughout the course of the game, you will eventually replace these powers.
Got it.
Right? Like
Did you say I can only have 4 of them?
you can only have 4 of them. And eventually you're going to have like 29th level powers and 23rd level
Which is
powers.
kinda nice.
If you want to,
Because
you
it
could
just
keep
clutters up your
exactly.
board.
So instead of having at the end of the game, instead of having like 8, also how long is a combat? Right? Like 3 to 4 rounds, 5 rounds. What are you going to do with 8 encounter powers?
Yeah,
you don't need them all.
I just need the ones that are the ones that I need to use.
Now, to be fair, there were some powers.
I kept the level 1 daily at the end of the
He
game.
kept the level 1 daily all the way to the very end of the
What
game.
was it?
When someone in my party got dropped, it allowed me to move, attack, and bring them back up.
Okay, so it didn't have to worry about scaling. Because
Right.
it was
The attack was weak, admittedly.
It didn't do a lot of damage because but
but
for,
the effect was
yeah,
so good. Like, why would I ever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, reaction, you're dead, you're back alive, and also I get to attack. Like, come on.
That's nice.
so again, and obviously this is also an AoE.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, you have Vault the Fallen. You leap from one foe to the next, leaving blood in your wake. Now here's where we can see the carrot for that other barbarian, the Thaneborn, which we did not take. Target 1 or 2 creatures. Attack, strength versus armor class. It's a weapon plus D6 plus strength. And the effect is if you target 2 creatures, you can shift 1 square after the first attack. If you have the Thaneborn ability, you can shift a number of squares equal to your charisma.
Now
This is actually a power that's really so good that even without
I'm
Thaneborn, I'm like, this is still pretty sweet.
Right.
So-
Obviously, being able to shift 3 squares is
awesome.
better than shifting 1 square.
Yeah, but shifting 1 is not bad by any means.
now
Correct.
if I'm reading this right,
Yep.
I can attack 2 creatures
Yep.
just with this ability.
Yep.
And I just make 1 strength versus.
Oh no, you make that attack against each target.
So I make that attack, then I make that attack.
You got
You're
it.
gonna
It's-
roll 2d20s.
It's you're gonna have to roll
But I get to make
2d20.
2 attacks.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I can shift if I hit.
Yep. No, you get to shift if you target 2 people after the first
that's the
attack is made.
effect.
Oh, after
Effect
the-
always
That's
happens.
fantastic.
Right. And it does 1 weapon
Movement plus
a
attacking
D6.
2 creatures.
Yeah. But Bob, the other one does triple damage.
Yeah, but that seems great.
Well, this is also, Bob, where you
2
need
creatures seems great.
it also, Bob, this is where your party composition starts to come in to matter.
Right, yeah.
For example, if your party had a bunch of people who could AoE,
You
they
don't
might
care about
say,
those, yeah.
"Yeah, we'd rather you be 1 single target
That's
massive
true.
damage."
Yeah.
But if you had a party that maybe didn't have a lot of AoE and being able to take down multiple people like minions,
It's funny you just said that. And Boothby writes, "Did you teach Bob about minions?"
right? You're aware of minions, right? These are creatures.
They have a 1 hit point.
They have 1 hit point, but like where 1 monster would be, you put 5 minions in. And it's not like Pathfinder 2 where they have like really, really low attack rolls and really, really, really shit armor
Their
classes.
stats are on par.
Their stats are basically the same as a normal monster. They do a little less damage for
But
sure.
it just takes it 1 square.
But just 1 square, it's just actually there could be large minions.
Yeah, you could have
Oh.
huge minions.
You could even have huge minions. They just have 1 hit point.
So that's like when we. This is not going to make sense to some people listening, but the Triune fight, you had that
Yes.
spawn of Triune. It was just
That's
a
what it was
1 hit
based
point.
on.
It was
Right.
a minion.
That was a minion.
But minions can be very deadly. If you don't burn them down quick, they can focus fire on you.
I mean, imagine your
I tried to do it in my spider fight in Northern Reaches. I tried to have minions 1 hit point that would just like peck you, and it was automatic damage.
Yeah.
They were really aggressive.
Yeah.
But they went after them, so it worked out really well.
So yeah, I mean, so on one hand, you have this.
I want the moving one.
So you're picking Vault the Fallen.
Vault the Fallen.
Right,
I think,
so
it's
it's
just, I think it's just better. I think it's just better.
I mean, look, this is where the character, what's the word I'm looking for? The character choices come in because
well, I
they're-
like this idea that I can like target a couple people, kill some, move across over there. So I have this.
I mean,
movement
look,
aspect of
Vault
my
the
guy.
Fallen is going to give you 2 attacks, which gives you more of a chance to
Yes.
crit,
More
which
chance
is
to
going to
knock
give you a
it to
better,
0.
more chance to knock a guy to 0, which will give you a better chance to. But then again,
got good
so
built-in
does
damage.
triple weapon damage.
I mean, that's going to easily trigger, like you said. you said earlier, like you're gonna want to try to trigger these things. Hitting triggers a lot of stuff. Well, in my case, game to 0 triggers a lot of stuff. So I want to be able to do that, but I still like just the flexibility.
Right.
And the falling.
But you can see here at 17th level, okay, your barbarian might be able to take devastating blow, which is 4 weapon damage, and the target takes a -2 penalty to their AC until your next turn. And if you were that Thaneborn, it's minus your charisma modifier. So that might be giving them like a -4 a penalty to their AC.
All right, scroll back up. Where's the big boys? Where's like the level 30 feets?
Oh, you want to skip?
I want to see the pinnacle max.
All right.
This is the stuff that Smith was showing me. I think. Where's like the
level 29 daily evocations, page 61.
61.
Crimson Phoenix Rage, Rage of the Primal Beast, the Winter Ghost Rage, and the World Serpent Rage.
So these are encounter powers?
These are dailies.
Or dailies.
You want to look at encounters or dailies?
Well, I don't know. Whatever the pinnacle max thing would be.
I mean,
the max encounters is level 27. The max dailies are 29.
All right, well, let's look at this one first. What's Rage of the Primal Beast?
All right, so Rage of the Primal Beast. The Primal Beast awakens within you, and your attack leaves your foe bleeding. As you rage, you feed on the presence of your foe. Overwhelming numbers only make you stronger. You target one creature, strength, versus their armor class. If you hit, you do 5 weapon damage plus your strength modifier, and the enemy takes ongoing 10 damage. So basically persistent damage 10. If you miss, you do half. And then, regardless of whether you hit or miss, you get the effect, which is you enter the Rage of the Primal Beast. Until the rage ends, which is the end of the fight, you gain a bonus to attack rolls equal to the number of enemies you can see.
You can see?
Yes.
You can see.
If there were 30 enemies on the battlefield, you would get a plus 30 to attack roll.
That's sweet. I go to the, what is it, encounter one, the page before?
Page 60.
All right, so what's our first one here?
There, yeah.
Blood Wrath.
Okay, Blood Wrath. All right.
This is a Rage Blood one.
So this is a Rage.
It's
Bonebreaker. Wait, did I miss it?
It's down there on the lower.
Oh, it's down here. Blood Wrath. The blood of your foes fills you with a thirst for more violence. It's a strength versus AC, one creature, but you get a +2 bonus to hit if they're bloodied. So hit 5 weapon damage, and you get a +2 bonus to your attack rolls until the end of your next turn, making you more likely to attack next turn. But if you have a Rage Blood Vigor, that bonus is equal to your con modifier, which by that point in the game might be like +5 or +6.
That's good.
So basically, you get a +6 bonus to your attack rolls until the next turn. And we haven't even talked about action point stacking and combos that way. But you could also get Hurricane of Blades. One creature, one weapon versus strength. Effect. Make this creature attack 5 more times.
Wait, what? Make the attack 5 more times against the same target or different ones. Oh, wow.
Yes. So
but you don't have to re-roll?
No. This is
the attack.
You make 6 attacks.
It's just 6 attacks.
Oh, okay. So I just choose I have to roll each separately. Yeah.
Yep. You just you make an attack, then you make an attack, then you make an attack, then you make an attack. They're all 0 math.
Now, what's important about
there's no multiple attack penalty or anything like that.
Is each individual attack gets to add all your modifiers again.
Yeah.
So it's better than like 6 weapon damage.
Yeah.
Because you just get all the bonuses.
Yeah.
But you have a chance to miss. So that's the downside.
Yeah. No.
And then Butcher's Feast, 6 weapon damage, and until the end of your next turn, you can make a melee basic attack as a free action whenever any enemy adjacent to you hits or misses you.
At the end of your turn, you can make a melee basic attack as a free action against an enemy adjacent to you. So anytime if they hit me or miss me,
yep.
Yes. Hit them.
So if 3 enemies attack you, you get to make 3
boom.
You get to make 3 extra attacks. By the way, if you have that Thaneborn, you get a bonus to all those attack rolls equal to, again, your charisma modifier, which might be like +4, +5 to hit. Now this is interesting because Bonebreaker is an interrupt.
So this is
like a reaction.
Okay.
Right? Because at a certain point, Bob, you have so many powers, you have so many powers that like you're not going to be able to use them all in a fight on just using your standard action. You need to sometimes pick up powers that use immediate
This has got
move.
a lot of different things.
All right. So basically, an enemy leaves a square adjacent to you. Target that enemy that triggered. So basically, if they move away from you.
Yep.
Strength versus their fortitude.
Yeah, which is interesting.
4 weapon damage plus strength, and the target takes 10 damage if it moves more than 1 square during this movement that the attack interrupts. So this is basically like a super attack of opportunity.
So
And it goes against their fortitude save, not their fortitude defense, not their armor class defense.
Easier to hit.
And it does an extra 10 points of damage if they want to keep moving.
Yeah. That's
So
pretty sweet.
and again,
look at Rampage and Dragon Strike.
which one's that one?
It's bottom.
Rampaging Dragon Strike. Like a terrible dragon, you dominate the battlefield, knocking aside lesser foes to pit your strength against the strongest. 1 or 2 creatures hit. You do double weapon damage plus strength, and you push the primary target 1 square. Then you get to move your speed and then make another attack.
Oh, gosh, somewhere else in the battlefield?
Yeah. So basically, you attack a guy, push him out of the way, get the hell out of here, then go move against another person.
Well, primary target's 1 or 2 creatures, so you could attack 2 people, push them both, then move. Yeah, they're both the primary target because the secondary target's down here.
Oh, yes, he's right. So this could let you make 3 attacks.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes, you're right. So you could target, let's say there's 2 guys in front of you. You target both of them. By the way, notice
the second attack's strong too.
What's stronger?
Stronger.
Oh my gosh.
The first was just a warm up.
This is kind of what I'm feeling with this character is like the one I just made is kind of this move and attack, and that thing is like right up my alley.
So there could be
that
2.
thing is sweet.
So there could be 2 guys in front of you.
Yeah.
Right. You hit them. They take damage. You push them out of the way. Then you move.
Which means no attack opportunity because you pushed them out of the way.
Right. Yeah. You get them out of the way. Then you move. You engage this guy. Hit him.
Yep.
Right.
Do a lot of damage.
Do a lot of damage. Kill him. So you
swift charge back.
So you swift charge back to the guys that you pushed through.
Your secondary attack also just has a bonus to attack because.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I like that.
Then you swift charge back to the guys that you pushed through immediately. Hit him, but remember, you're not using a Bailey basic attack. You'll use your at will ability, your thirst for vengeance or whatever it's called. The
Blood Hunt Rage?
No.
My at wills? Recuperating Strike?
Howling strike.
Yeah.
Right? And then if you crit with that, you get to make another attack. At any point during any of these 4 or 5 attacks that you're making, if you crit, you get to make an immediate free attack.
I already can see myself like needing like a chain of operations. Like,
well, okay.
Now,
this is literally end of the game.
cards
Yeah, this is literally at
it's still pretty cool.
You're at
though,
27 levels after 30 levels of play. Now, I will be the first to admit that maybe like D&D 5th edition, 4th edition sort of eases you in, right? You kind of like, in my personal opinion, you don't like really fully come online until basically 10th level.
Yep. That's when you have all of your slots filled.
And again, remember, you're doing 30 levels instead of 20. So it's basically like levels.
How's leveling up in this? Standard?
Experience points, do you
level faster? Because 30 levels takes a long time. Okay.
Not really.
No,
in fact, I can actually tell you the way that the game is designed is in a level, you are going to give your party, you need 10 encounters basically to level. But 8 of those encounters are supposed to be combats or skill challenges or, encounters. 2 of those encounters are supposed to be quests, and the party gets a bonus experience points when they complete the quest. So another way to look at it is you basically want to have 8 encounters to level up. And if you're doing 4 encounters on one night and 4 encounters on the next night, you'll level every other week.
How long does a counter take?
Well,
Pathfinder 2 would tell me that would be like 4 hours.
A fight can take an hour.
A fight can take an hour.
Okay.
But there's other encounters like skill challenge. They take.
It is not unusual for a 4th edition encounter to take an hour, and if it's like a particularly bigger fight, it could take easily 90 minutes.
So I'm just thinking of our Friday nights is when ideally we're going to play this after we finish Abomination Vaults. That to me sounds like it's going to take 2 to 3 sessions to level up because we after the hour of BSing, we really only have 4 hours to go, and not all of it's just combat.
Correct.
So it's probably gonna take 3 sessions to level
it could.
up.
Yeah,
it's
very
a
much could.
long time.
It is.
Yeah.
But you don't want to level every session in this game because you have to learn how to play your character.
That's fair.
And I can't stress enough. And your character is always changing.
Yeah.
And so it's not just session 0 at the beginning where we talk about what powers you're going to pick at level 1. Every time we get new powers, you have to have that same conversation again because it's going to change your tactics. And then when you're actually fighting in this game, you might go, oh, this isn't working the way we thought it was going to work. So this game has retraining rules in it, just like Pathfinder. And you might be swapping feats or powers out. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember having retraining
There's actually,
rules.
I'll have to send you an article. There's an awesome article from WotC about like how they did a build of a teleport wizard. And like every level, they were constantly retraining things.
Fruitless Endeavor, $7 to hit our tip goal. Another 4E stream. All right. Well, we just did it. So $100. So we will do another
Sweet.
4E stream.
Nice.
I mean, this was really exciting for me to look at.
Yeah. So what we'll probably do, honestly, when we get this thing together, is we'll probably talk. And again, we might not do this right away because we try to. I don't want this to be the PF2 channel. I don't
Derek
want this
has to make money.
I don't want this to be the 4. Well, we did really well tonight. We did 175.
Oh, that's true.
We are a tabletop role playing channel.
Right. We're a tabletop
RPG channel.
Right. But I was gonna say I don't want to just like spam one thing. But what I would love to talk about is 4E, the monster rolls, how the math of that works.
That's the one thing I really want.
Because that's the other side. That's the foes, right? You as a party have your defender, your strikers, your controller, and your leader.
So do the bad guys.
But the bad guys have their soldiers, their brutes, their lurkers, their skirmishers, their artillery. Okay, they have their leaders, right? So they have their controllers, and so they bring their own unique challenge. Your fighter. Or is like, come attack me. It'll be a real pain in the ass if you attack anybody else. Well, the monsters have that too. But why? I don't want to be attacking the guy that does low damage and has high AC.
While your backline's getting destroyed.
Meanwhile, there's a guy nuking us from a far distance.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to.
The monsters also have minions, elites, and solos.
Right. So.
All right.
Yeah.
It sounds like it'll be fun for us.
So, Bob, I'm curious. Now that you've more or less made your 4th edition character here, what do you think?
Having never played it.
What do you think about your character?
He sounds sweet. He sounds like he's moving around doing a lot of damage, which is pretty cool. The problem is I actually think I'm more excited to see how he would engage with the other characters. And I'm more excited to see what the foes I'd be facing are. Because, obviously I like the 5e Barbarian a lot, but the Pathfinder one really let me down. So it'd be interesting to see how this one. And I'm actually also interested. I still need to read the one you made me, the level 1. I want to see how he differs from the one I made.
They're pretty close, but
Okay.
I feel like when I had access to a little bit more powers, I definitely tried to pick ones I thought you would be into, which was a mix of being a badass, but also just destroying shit.
Which is also bad.
I love that we had that conversation. And Smith has actually moved his microphone all the way. We had this conversation about getting overly comfortable.
Oh yeah, our role playing Debbie.
Yeah, great.
Super chat.
Yeah, great role playing Debbie. Thank you so much for the super chat. Knights of the Last Call is not limited to such puny concerns as Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We are hyper crunchy, uber tactical nerds of all systems,
This is true.
and that is absolutely right. Bruno asks, "What books would we recommend if someone was just starting?" Well, no one saw that, but that's all right.
I have it as my mouse pad.
So, Rules Compendium is easily the best way to read. Now, this doesn't have any classes in it. It doesn't have any feats. It doesn't have any powers. It is literally just the rules of the game as it is expressly convinced. That being said, that is probably the best and easiest way to learn the rules of the game. But if you don't want to buy 2 books, I would just buy Player's Handbook 1. That is going to give you the most basic classes. That's going to give you your fighter and your wizard and your cleric and all the rogues, all the basic stuff that you would expect from D&D.
Also includes equipment,
dwarf,
items,
human,
like
has magic items and all that other stuff.
But if you want to be cool and play the Barbarian,
you need Player's Handbook
sounds
2.
like you got to go number 2.
Right. And so honestly, I think Rules Compendium plus Player's Handbook is a really good combination to start the game with. You'll see a lot of people say that the first monster manual is a little sus.
Pick up Monsters of the Nintir Vale. Do you have that one?
You want to pick up...
Yeah, Monster Vault.
This is... Ideally, you pick up that monster book, which is called Monster Vault.
That's a nice looking art on that front. Some owlbear action.
That's a great book. It covers all the fundamental classic D&D monsters 1 through 30.
Is it and the stat blocks and stuff are in here?
Yeah.
It's
Now-
everything you need.
Okay.
This is Monster Manual, the first one. The problem is, as the game went on, the game was out for 5-6 years. They learned things about their game, and they said, you know what, we probably gave these monsters too many hit points, and they probably didn't do enough damage to be super exciting. So by the time you get to a book like Monster Vault or Monster Manual 3, they typically had sort of fixed a lot of the math, and it's just become a lot more compelling. So that is generally speaking what I would recommend. I don't know anything's going on now. Their monsters aren't exactly the same because they're different monsters. But you're comparing the stats.
So what is Essentials? Is that like a product that came after?
So what Essentials was D&D, Wizards of the Coast, giving into their critics, giving into the hate, and trying to be like, we're sorry that we made this game with cool powers and fun abilities, and we want to go back on that. and we want to basically they were like, we want to go back to like the way it used to be in 3rd edition, but still having it before. No one's going to be able to see that. Yeah, no, it's way too small. Nope.
No, that one's locked in.
But as an example, like
with no mic.
With no
You
mic.
need your mic.
Just a mess over here. Yeah, so like the Goblin Warrior is a level 1 skirmisher in the original. What?
You also take every opportunity to bang the fucking thing.
In the original Monster Manual book, it's got some basic attacks, and it's got, it's okay, but it's not exciting. And one of the things that they did with the monsters in the revised books is just give them more interesting powers, let them do more cool and tactical things, stuff like that.
Oh, so they weren't tactical in
No, they
one.
are.
Oh.
But they put their hair down more, right? So they do a little bit more. Like this goblin here, when you attack and miss, he gets to shift.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. That's not bad. But like this goblin over here gets that, but then also has like better move actions where they can scurry and move fast and like not get attacks of opportunity and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
So just they kind of like did an overhaul on some of the basic monsters, fixed the math a little bit. Again, if you're playing with this book, if you happen to find it for $4 somewhere and pick it up, you'll have a good time with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that when they got to this book, they did a good job at tweaking the numbers and adjusted some of the powers to keep it a little bit more like boom, 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 and engaging.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are probably the ones that I would definitely stick to. So we hit both of our typicals.
That's amazing.
So we
Thank you guys.
Yeah. So thank you so much for that. We're going to do another PF2 magic item stream. We're supposed to cover weapons and armor, and I just made it through weapons. Though I did see it was funny. Somebody was like, "Strange." They're like, my players, just watched or whatever. We just watched that video, and they all ended up with crushing flails with frost runes on them. And I was like,
yeah.
I was like, yeah. But we do want to again. We went into the details about the weapons and armor as like an overall, but then we also talked specifically about weapon runes. So we definitely need to talk about armor runes, and then of course there's the whole other treatise of magical items in Pathfinder 2, from wands and scrolls and staves to all of your held items, the things that you were going to invest. So definitely a lot to cover there. And then, like I said, we'll probably do another stream with Bob and Smith to talk about the monsters and their role in 4th edition. Because again, 4th edition D&D has a D20 roll. You have 6 ability scores. You have some skills, right? You have an attacks. You have some cool powers that are written on your character sheet. They might be spells. They might be, action surge, right? So it's like 5e. It's like 3e. It's like 4. It's D&D. You can just roll dice. If you roll high, good. If you roll bad, low, bad. You can do everything you want to do with it. But the game undoubtedly has this focus. And by focus, I don't necessarily mean that that's to the exclusion of other things. Right. It just means that, like, for example, your characters get a lot of cool, super awesome attack powers. You do not get a lot of cool, super option role-play and a funny voice power. Now, I don't know any D&D games that do give you that power. I miss those if they did exist. But the game, it does not have fate points. Mm-hmm. It does not have meta currency points, right? It doesn't have an ability to be like, I want to declare a narrative truth that this monster is actually afraid of fire, right? There are role-playing games where you could do that. 4th edition D&D any version of D&D is not a game where you could do that. All 4th edition D&D does is it takes the tactical combat of the grid minis and it just gives you some extra oomph and complexity.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Yep, that's the cost.
That's the cost that you're paying. It is more complex. There's more little knobs and dials, and anyone who's seen a high-level Pathfinder 2 character knows that complexity is a cost. Mm-hmm. But in exchange, in theory, if that's what you want out of a game system, you get a more rewarding and enriched tactical combat experience.
I will say I find this interesting because, as you know, Bob, this game officially banned any and all role playing. You are not permitted to role play in this game, right?
I will not Well, I don't role play anyway.
That's true. So this is an addition for you, but it is interesting that like parts of character creation have you go through your personality and mannerisms and things like that. You know, how trusting are you? How optimistic are you? What assertive point? How assertive are you at decision points, etc. Like that. So weird that they added this stuff into
I
this
just
game.
think even the quest thing alone is a nice
Actually,
driver.
yeah, non-sarcastically, I want to talk about that because it's great because it's a great way just to tie in again the world and what your character's doing in it. And so much, it's very subtle, but so much of that is in here, right? Like these creatures and particularly like when you look at like the monster and world design, like they all tie into like these foundational things in the game, like primordials and how they like are different like creatures and monsters that you'll face and how like your power types like affect that. There's a lot of lore in the game, which you could just kind of throw out the window and just roll d20s and have a good time and smash things. But like when you really kind of like look at how monsters are built and where they come from and how they fit in the world, and then you tie in the classes, the Paragon Pass,
actually, you make an interesting point, which is this. This might not be something you like. 4E actually has a fair amount of baked in ideas.
Oh yeah, they defined what the world looks like. In fact, the way their campaign settings work is they take the same kind of core definitions of the world and then just kind of like tweak one or two aspects of it.
Like, you remember how Fabula Ultima, and we had it has like, these are the 8, no matter what game of Fabula Ultima play, you need to have these 8 pillars of play, right?
Yeah.
You need to have the technology versus nature.
Oh, yeah.
The world is dying and needs to be healed. These are critical and essential. 4E is like that, right? Where there are elements of the game that are supposed to be kind of present no matter what kind of game you're playing. Like in theory, you could ignore all those and have a 4E game that, it takes place in a very, everything's civilized and there's no danger and like there's no unknown and there's no exploration, but some of the game mechanics and some of the game concepts are tied into that sort of idea.
Yeah, so. Tied into the points light.
Ayla wants to know, what did Essentials do that was so different from the previous books? It basically got rid of the at-will encounter daily utility paradigm.
The progression, the powers still exist.
Like it basically created character classes that were essentially simpler to run and had less or more tone. To be fair, they didn't look like a first edition fighter,
right.
But they looked a little bit probably more like what a fighter would look like in 5th edition.
Right.
In fact, I would argue that the D&D Essentials fighter is pretty much a early version of the whatever, I don't know, the
guy that gets the martial die or whatever.
Yeah, the combat superiority die.
That's it. Yeah.
So again, Essentials fighters weren't just like, I only attack and that's it. But like they didn't get all these because again, they were trying to create, because they were like, a lot of people were like, I don't want to have all these cool powers. I just want to swing my sword.
Maybe this is the wrong edition for you.
Yeah, maybe. But they wanted to get those people's money, which is why they came out with Essentials. So yes, exactly. Karama says your powers are this. When you make a basic attack, you get to do this extra thing. And so basically, because think about it. Remember how we just described this game, Bob? You had your dailies, your encounters, your at-wills, and then at the very bottom...
Utility.
No, at the very bottom, we didn't talk about utility, because you don't get them tired a little. The very bottom is basic attack.
Okay.
Remember the thing that... Right?
You said I'll never do.
That's strike. Strike in Pathfinder 2 is a melee basic attack. It's just a normal attack. There's no effect that happens. There's no extra bonus. It's just swing your sword and do damage. That was the case in 3rd edition. That's the case in 5th edition. So people were basically like, that's what I want out of my fighter. I just want to swing my sword and do damage and not do anything else.
I get that.
And I don't want to push people. I don't want to knock people aside and charge through the middle of them down into another foe. I just want to stand there and swing. And
I get it.
Okay. But, and you know what? I'm fine with that.
The issue is that they took this game and then...
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It just kind of, they sacrificed the game that I did like. Also, I'm fine with that, especially if I was playing in a game that didn't maybe use a grid.
Sure.
Because everything that we've described today, push one, pull the... Yeah, you want to be playing this game on a grid, for sure. And so if people are like, oh, we don't play with the grid, we just full theater of the mind. Yeah, 4th edition, a little tough, a little challenging. Yeah. It's challenging with a grid.
It is.
So anyways. All right, well, it is past 10 o'clock,
Yes.
so we are going to wrap up. Thank you again to everybody who came in here and supported us. Thank you again to our incredible and amazing patrons who support us each and every month, each and every stream, each and every day with their kindness, their generosity, their amazing ideas, and of course their incredible community that they bring to us. Oh yes, those are mine. We'll be back Thursday. I'm going to be here with Steven from Roll for Combat talking about I'm not sure what.
All I know is there'll be plushies in the background.
There'll be some plushies.
Y4E sucks.
Oh, right.
Something about pirate parrots.
Something about pirate parrots. And of course, Steven, Roll for Combat, over there, launched a new Kickstarter today, the Year of Legends. So if you want to go over there and check it out, it's YOL.rollforcombat.com if you want to join the Kickstarter. I think they already hit a couple of their stretch goals. So hopefully doing well for them. But
Stretch goals?
Let's not start that conversation. And again, but outside of that, we've got more Pathfinder 2, we've got more 4E, and of course, more first looks and other esoteric indie RPGs that no one ever heard about and no one will ever play, but we love to talk about and read and think about playing anyway. So for Mr. Aaron Smith and for Mr. Bob Bumbarger, thank you so much. Thank you, Ayla, for the $2 super chat. We appreciate you. Thank you all for your amazing support, and we'll see you next time on Knights of Last Call. Bye.